let's go ahead and get this thing started tonight. We appreciate all of you coming to our to tonight's Truth and Taxation hearing, and we'll call this meeting to order. We're doing this a little different this year. Those who are here in person have the opportunity to make comments and should have signed up on the sign-up sheet. We also, a portion of the meeting will be open for people on a Zoom meeting, and they have previously signed up also. So we'll go with the folks who are here in person first, and then we'll switch, when that group of people are done, we will switch to the ones that are calling in virtually. We remind you when it's your turn to speak to please state your name, the city of your residence, and let us know whether you're speaking as an individual or if you're a representative of a group. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the end of that 3 minutes, you'll hear a buzzer. There's a timeline that you'll see on the screen while you're speaking, and you'll hear a buzzer, and we just would ask you to be respectful of other people's time, and when you hear the buzzer, conclude your remarks. So, with that, our business administrator, Brock Mitchell, will now present the proposed 2025 tax rate. Mr. Mitchell.
All right. Board, Superintendent, and everyone who's here, welcome. Glad to see this room this full. I've had some great conversations over the last week or two around this, and I appreciate the fact that people are willing to engage. That means a lot to us as a district. What I'm going for tonight is I want to make sure that I'm educating. That's a big part of this. This has been an education for me. This has been a 7-month journey for me to really figure out how school funding works. And so this is something I hope that we share with you guys and open some eyes around this. Trent, the forward movement on this is not working, Trent. So if you'll go to the next slide. One more. There we go. Thank you. We have some QR codes around the room, but you can also follow along. These are the exact slides that I'm going to follow through, so feel free to follow along with us. This presentation isn't going to go anywhere. This is going to stay up, so if you have this, you can reference it at any point in time. I'll give everyone just a minute to pull that up if you want, but please, at any point, if you lose it, jump up and grab it off to the walls. Okay, I felt it was worth starting just by helping to explain, Board, the tax notice and what the tax notice entails. There's a lot of information on this, and I want to explain what these numbers actually represent. So up at the top, if you notice right up here, these are two different values. This 538 is the 2024 average market value of homes. The 524 is the current year average market value. And so as we go through these presentations tonight, when we talk last year, it's going off of this amount. When we look at current year, it's the 524,000. I think that's important to understand. There is a difference as we're looking at these numbers. As you go through your tax notice, and this is based on the average, so your numbers will be different than what I'm presenting, but it should match as far as the rest of the information up there. Here on the left-hand side, you'll see the tax entities. You see Weber School District, the statewide school, the state charter, and the Weber School District GO bond. You'll also see the rates from last year, the rates if there were no increase, the proposed rates, and I'll get to that in just 1 second, and then the changes on the proposed rates. One thing I want to point out, and it's really important, is in June 1st, we are required as an entity to make a decision if we're going to move forward with a truth in taxation hearing. And we have to set an amount that would be the maximum amount we would move to in that truth in taxation hearing. And the maximum amount that we proposed at the time was shown here. Okay, so this is where this number comes from. And this number represents the 21% that showed up on the tax notices. Now, that does not necessarily mean that's going to be the recommendation to the board. That's the maximum amount we could go to. And so that's a decision that's made through some different calculations. Now, again, we had to make that by June 1st. We don't finish our budget and hold that hearing until the middle of June. So it's difficult to make some final estimations until we get some of those budgets created. Now, notice under Weber School District, we have, oops, here we go. We have 3 accounts, the board, the voted, and the capital. You see those down there. Those make up the certified rate. And so when you take those and you move across to the far right-hand side, there we go, oh, Trent, this thing's dying on me. Far right-hand side, sorry, I apologize. Right over on the far lower right-hand side, you'll see that the amounts and the percents. Those amounts are if we went to our maximum. And again, I want to point out that would be the highest amount. So when you see that on your tax notices, that's the numbers that are being presented. Now I want to go to the next slide and let you know that our recommendation does not approach the maximum. Again, at that time, we weren't sure where we needed and where we landed. So the recommendation that I will be making to the board, and I will follow this throughout the entire presentation, the recommendation we're making to the board is to increase 4 tax increments, and there's some language in here that I will explain as we go, but 4 tax increments above the certified rate to 18.2 tax increments. And that's to help us maximize the state guaranteed funding of the board and voted levies. This results in a 5.64% tax increase over the 24 rate, which is an additional $9,722,950. So that 21 that was on the tax notice will be recommended at 5.64% instead. Okay? Now, I want to point out a few things. This was the proposed on the tax notice. These are the numbers to the right there that are actually the recommended numbers. So you can see 2 of those have, actually 3 of those, all 3 of those in green, are lower than what were stated on that tax notice that was received by our county residents. To highlight the change year over year, again, you can see the 2024 average value, the 225 average value, and where those tax rates end up. On that average house, it ends up being a $46.83 increase for the year, or $3.90 per month. Okay, that's the change that is being recommended to the board. Okay, there are some questions that popped up around, is this being presented because of the new schools? And I want to emphasize that this is not. In 2021, the bond was passed for $279 million for our 3 new schools, Westfield High School, Mountain View Junior High, and Haven Bay Elementary, and the rebuild of our 4th, Roosevelt Elementary. That was all done at no tax increase to Weber County taxpayers, and that is that general obligation rate that's on the tax notice. This is not part of these changes. Now, due to inflation on the construction products, there was a need in 2023 to move to a lease revenue bond for $52 million for Roosevelt's rebuild. This was done in conjunction with a lowering of the debt service levy. And at the time, in 2021, when that passed, that debt service was 0.001343, and that was lowered in 2023 to 0.001146. Okay, so that levy did come down in 2023. Now, I put some numbers up there just to show a comparison. These are 2 of our elementary schools that were built. The first one in 2016, the cost there was $168 per square foot. In 2025 for Roosevelt, because of inflation, those costs are $440 per square foot, which is a 162% increase. That is part of the reason that we had to move into a lease revenue bond situation. Now, the lease revenue bond is built into our budget as is. It's not something that's going to be added or changed because of this truth in taxation. These 3 new schools and the rebuild of Roosevelt plays 0 factor in the need for this truth in taxation hearing. That was some narrative that I'd heard, but I want to reemphasize that is just simply not the case. Now, as we go through these, I want to define some things. There's a few levies that the board has no control over. The first one is the state basic. Every district in Utah has to levy this rate and it's set by the legislature every year. This is something that every district has to. Back on the tax notice, this is your state rate that every, again, district has to levy. The charter school levy is another one that the state requires local districts to levy. This is to help fund charter schools for students who live in our boundaries. So when students in our boundaries attend these charter schools, this tax amount comes through Weber School Districts, called a pass-through rate, and this gets passed along to those charter schools. The amount that Weber School District has to levy but pass along to those charter schools for fiscal year 26 is on this slide. It's $2,076,764 for this next year. The debt service, or the GO, general obligation levy, is the levy that is set by the county to make sure that we can repay our bonds. This is something that the county works with us on. There is no need to raise this if we have the amount to pay the bonds, which we currently do. So that is something that actually lowers every year, the total amount does, if necessary, to make sure we pay those bonds. We're in good standing with those, so nothing is affected on that front. Now, the board voted local and the capital levy, those are levies that the school district can use. So the levies for the board and board and voted are set by the school board to help fund essential operations. The sum of these, including the charter, now the charter is part of the calculation, I'll get to that in a few minutes, those three make up the tax increment. And the tax increment's a big part of what I will talk more in detail with a little bit later. The capital levy is another levy that's set by the school board, and this is set aside solely for capital needs. This cannot be used for maintenance and operations. This cannot be used for salaries. This is simply for capital needs. So repairs, maintenance, capitalized purchases, technology infrastructure, etc. The board and voted can be used for capital, but capital cannot be used for anything outside of that area. And then again, the board, voted, and capital make up that district certified rate that you saw in your tax
Hey,
notices.
Brock, can you speak to the state basic levy? That money goes towards the WPU, or how does that money work?
That is money that is levied in every county,
Right.
And works towards, just comes in and we can use it on maintenance operation.
Okay.
Okay, again, I want to just continue to dive into different pieces to help make sure everyone's on the same page with this. When we talk property taxes, the state runs off something called revenue neutrality. And essentially what they're saying there is, by design, property taxes are set to each year make sure that the entity that's receiving those property taxes receives an equal amount the next year. There is no additional amount unless there's growth in the county or a truth in taxation takes place. So as the assessed values increase, which we know they have in Weber County, that certified rate actually decreases, creating an inverse relation. So you think as assessed values goes up, that rate just naturally drops, right, to keep that neutrality in place. And any year a taxing entity chooses not to increase revenues, that certified rate will drop. And that savings, as far as the rate goes, is passed on to the taxpayers. Now, that does not weigh into affect the assessed values. We as a district don't have any control over the assessed values. You can see there on the bottom of that slide, the auditor sets that certified tax rate, the assessor does the assessed values, and then the treasurer collects the tax revenue. All right, and so we utilize just the information we get from the county in our calculations. Now, just a few more definitions to help make sure. The market value of your home is set by that county assessor. Okay? When we talk the taxable amount, that's only 55% of the home. So there's a 45% that is not taxed in this. And then the basic property tax calculation used for everybody on that primary home is you would take our tax rate times the assessed value, and that dictates the revenue. And so you doing just some simple math, you divide that, you can figure out tax rates by that revenue brought in divided by the assessed value. And that's how we get some estimations to start the year.
I know that there's a lot of misinformation about the tax rate, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, you raise our tax rate every year, or our taxes, but because of the market value of your house, if your market, so just to make sure I'm understanding this correct, as your market value goes up, our tax rate goes down. So actually, our rate typically without a truth and taxation is decreasing. So if we chose to keep the same rate as the previous year, we would have to go into truth and taxation because that would be considered an increase, correct? Okay.
Correct. Yep. And I've got the next slide actually highlights some of that. Now this is a 10-year snapshot of Weber County. So we get these numbers from the assessor's office each year. So you can see going back to 2016, the total assessed value in Weber County was $8.6 billion, and that's homes and businesses. Go 10 years into the future, the assessed values in Weber County is $24.3 billion. So in 10 years, the assessed value of Weber County has tripled, which is painful. I mean, that is really kind of what puts us in this situation. You can see the home value also. In 2016-17, the average home value was $223,788. This year, they gave us the value of $524,000. So the total assessed value in the county dictates a lot of what's happening here. Now, to Board Member Larson's point, you can see every year that the district has chosen not to do a truth and taxation, and the truth and taxations were in green. Okay? So each year that happened, that rate has dropped. The certified rate continued to drop. Now here, that rate dropped, but because we shifted and moved some numbers up within that certified rate, we had to do a truth and taxation. But total, our rate dropped. And then in 2023, 2024, there was an increase of 19.81. That was when we moved from the general obligation, we dropped that. So it was a higher rate, that's when we went into the lease revenue. We took from that general obligation, we moved it into the capital, and because it came into capital is part of that certified rate, the certified changed, but overall, the change was to the true year-over-year numbers, 1.29%. And you would see these on your tax notices from those years also. To look at, again, some other definitions, because these are things that we will hit on. There's a calculation the state uses called tax increments. And tax increments is just our rates. They get into some specifics with some formulas that I'll show here in a minute, but a tax increment is just a fraction of a percent. It's 0.0001, which when you take that number and you multiply it by the taxable value of property, we get a certain amount. And that's where the taxable numbers come from. Okay, so in 2025, that average market value, again, was $524,000. So using that calculation, you take your $524,000, you multiply by the 55%, which drops it to $288,000. That's the amount that the tax rate is then multiplied by. So one tax increment is $28.82 per year, or $2.40 per month. So if you were to pull your tax notice, you could run this same calculations with those numbers based on your home's market value. To extrapolate this, because these are where we start getting to Weber School District specific numbers, Weber School District in tax year 24, so fiscal year 25, the one we just ended, has a board rate of 0.00712 and the voted rate of 0.000743. The sum of those is 0.001455. This equates to 14.55 tax increments. So as I go through these calculations going forward, if you hear me say 14.55 tax increments, that's where I'm calculating those numbers from, okay? Okay, just to show a historical picture, the district is leaning heavily into something that was called the hold harmless provision, and I've got a slide coming up on this. But what that allowed districts to do is let these rates slide and still maximize the help from the state. So you can see going back to 2016-17, again, some of those dates that were on that previous slide, our certified and our board and voted continued to drop for quite a few years. And again, as these dropped, those assessed values are going up. It's that inverse relation. In 22-23, the increase there were for staff salaries, teachers and staff, as well as an increase to the safety budget. We started seeing quite a few new implementations from the state legislature on safety expectations in our districts. And so we saw a little bit of an increase there. In 23-24, This one looks a little different because the blue went up, the orange went down. Again, the difference here is we took from that general obligation, moved it into the capital for that lease revenue, and then we lowered the voted. Right? So that voted levy actually dropped and the capital went up. So the sum of the whole went up because we pulled from the general obligation, which is not calculated into these rate calculations. Okay, this is a big part of why, as a district, we had to make some decisions. So there is something called a hold harmless provision. And in the past, they being the state legislature, had a 6-year hold harmless time frame that districts could utilize their largest board and their largest voted levies. And so you could go back any time in the previous 6 years and utilize the largest of those numbers in the calculations for this state guaranteed funding. This last session, HB 2 made a change, and they changed that from a 6-year hold harmless to a 2-year hold harmless. So you could look back to the previous year's numbers or to the year that you're entering. And again, if boards choose to do nothing, that rate actually decreases, right? And I'll show you this on the next slide. So in anticipation of some difficult decisions that districts are going to have to make, the legislature did help us by implementing a 3-year step down in this. Okay? And so what they did is they set a goal to try and allow 3 years of additional funding to get districts to the state maximum in tax increments for the calculation. And that calculation, state maximum, is 20. And again, I'm going to show you in this next slide where this goes. But without gradual increases towards 20, that increment whole, because of the inverse relation, gets deeper and deeper and deeper each year. And we'd be in that situation. For that 3-year, I told you there's a 3-year phase-in. The 3-year phase-in amount for Weber School District is sitting here. So they've set amount for fiscal year 26 of 10.2 million. Then they take and drop that by 33%. Then they take and drop that by 33%. And then it goes away. And so without some adjustments into the future, we would lose any additional funding that the state is giving us to help buffer this transition through the hold harmless. So I want to explain what our numbers look like, right? So this is where we actually land. So I've color-coded this to help everyone follow along. This is complicated, admittedly, but I want to make sure everyone sees. So I had to pick a start date, 2016-17. You'll notice that the pink number here is a new number in 2016-17. This bluish number, that is something that is started in 16-17 as well. Those are what we're going to call true rates. That is what the rate would be for our taxpayers. Okay, so that's what the taxpayers would have seen in 2016-2017. Going through the math calculations that I showed previously, if you were to add those together, that ends up being 22.91 tax increments. Okay? Now, the line down below, that 18.66, again, I had to pick a place to start, but if you went back to 2014, that would have been our tax rate in 2014. Okay, that's what that 18.66 represents. The 6-year hold harmless, from any point in the past 6 years, you could take that largest number. So you'll see that 18.66 rides there under that board HH for 4 years, which tells me that that was 2 years prior, because that's a 6-year window. Okay? You'll see the pink that's set right there carries on for 6 years. After 6 years, that number drops off, and you have to go to your next largest. And so for this 2017-2018, that 1102, that becomes our next largest. That 2018-19, that 1154, that becomes our next largest. And you can see on that lower, the color coordination is when those numbers drop off. And so that's the end of that 6-year time frame where we could go back and utilize the largest number within that time frame. Okay? Now, an important thing to consider and understand here is that true tax increment calculation. You'll see in 2016-17, it was 22.91. When the board chose not to do anything in 17-18, as far as raising rates, that number slid backwards. And again in 18-19, it slid backwards. Now that stayed above 20, and 20 is the magic number. you'll see on the top row and the bottom of each of those says state hold harmless. That's used for a formula. And they maximize every district across the state, every district uses the same formula, at 20 tax increments. You can't go above 20. If your number is above 20, it's essentially just money that you're not getting from the state. They cut everybody off at 20. However, if you drop below 20, you are not maximizing your money that the state could be providing to you. Okay? So you can see up through last year, we had 20 all the way across there. On the bottom again, 20 all the way across. But I have to emphasize, in the red squares, those are our true tax increments. So if we ended up having to go to a 6-year time frame, eventually those would be the numbers that we'd have to utilize, right? So 24-25, you can see a couple slides ago I talked about that 14.55. That's our true tax numbers, okay? But because we could go back 6 years, we were still at 20 tax increments. This last legislative session, House Bill 2 said that we're now going to a 2-year. So it's either the previous year that we just left or our future year, the year that we're entering. Well, if we look at that, and that's what's in yellow, our future year, the year that we're just entering, our certified rate puts us at 14.2 tax increments, and our 1 year previously is 14.55. And so we are now well below that 20 tax increment number to maximize state funding. Okay? And again, this is where the state legislature did see some have some forethought and allowed us to phase this in. But what we're risking is pretty substantial. So I want to now go to that formula I've referenced a couple times. So the state guaranteed funding is designed to equalize funding across all districts. Okay? So if you look at any district, they're gonna have a WPU count, and so that's a student head count plus add-ons for CTE students, add-ons for special education students, add-ons for small schools, which we do qualify because of Snowcrest in the valley, and then previously add-on for professional staffing, right? And so all of that added together gives us a WPU count. They also have a state guaranteed rate, and that is an amount that every district utilizes. In our previous year, you can see here in the middle of the screen, it was $64.05. This upcoming year, it's $75.58. That's set by the rate, that's set by the state, and every district across the state utilizes that. So the formula for this state guaranteed is the tax increments, which, like I've told before, we had 20 previously, times the guaranteed rate, times the WPU. Okay? And for Weber School District for this upcoming year, that's our WPU count. Okay? And we are given that, again, by the state. And they use all these different calculations to calculate that. So for fiscal year 25, we had 20 tax increments. The rate at that time was $64.05. The WPU was $45,909.831. So we were guaranteed $58,810,493.51. Right? We were guaranteed that from the state. Now, whatever didn't come in from our local tax base was backfilled by the state. And that's that state guarantee. They will fill that hole.
So just to clarify, on the WPUs, we did not lose 3,000 students from last year to this year. That's because the state eliminated the staffing extra funding.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of talk has been going on about declining enrollment. Our declining enrollment for next year is maybe 300 students, not 3,000 students. I just wanted to clarify that because it looks like we've lost 3,000 students. We've lost 300, but we've lost the 3,000 WPUs because of the change in state code.
Correct. Yeah, and that was right here on the bottom. So that WPU reduction is the legislative change. We had roughly 3,000 WPUs because of professional staffing that they've moved to a different part of that is no longer part of the WPU calculation. So you can see that decision changed our calculations quite a bit. It lowered that number in multiplication, and 3,000 times something, changes a lot. So I want to point out just 3 scenarios, right? Just to show you how some of the numbers came to be. So if we were to leave things at 14.55, which we could because that's last year's numbers, we would take this bottom line calculation and the state would guarantee us $46.4 million. That's at 14.55 tax increments. If we went to 20, which is what we could maximize out, that would get us $63,780,247 at 20 tax increments. Now, if we look at this 18.2, which I mentioned in our recommendation at the beginning, that puts us very close and actually below where we were at last year, which is part of the reason why we looked at 18.2 in a recommendation board. We felt like we're not needing additional funds. We're not adding staff. We're not adding programs. In fact, we're looking at places to make sure that we're being prudent in our calculations. But it puts us to where we could sustain what we've done previously and not essentially do anything additionally. We're just looking to sustain what's going on. But that calculation is a big part of why that 14.55 is difficult, because it's $12 million less than what we've gotten in the past, and that's state guaranteed funding. Now I want to emphasize one thing. I talked about state equalization that may not resonate with everyone. I want to just compare one other district that I think hopefully this makes sense in my comparison. Park City, their taxable assessed values is much higher than everywhere else in the state. And so when they run these calculations in their county, the money that they bring in is so far above everyone else, they actually have to send a very large check back to the state to help with this equalization. Right? And so this is, every district in the state is saying we're going to guarantee the same amount per student from the state. They're guaranteeing that. Anything above that is county specific. And that's what happens when counties go above 20 tax increments, is that starts to fall on the county residents. So to look at just a couple reasons why truth in taxation this year. A big part of it is to start getting towards that 20 tax increments. We should be responsible with what the state is allowing us to maximize. And if we're not moving towards 20, we're leaving state funding on the table, which is going to hurt our students. We should be maximizing the funds that the state is going to provide to us. And if we don't do that, we're going to fall behind. We also have quite a few unfunded state mandates that are being placed on us within the legislature. Now, there are different things that we have applied for grants, and I put an asterisk next to all of those. We've also utilized ESSER funding, which is federal funds that was back from COVID. Sometimes you'll hear those referred to as COVID funds. And our district got ahead with a few of these safety funds before they were mandated, using some of those ESSER funds. But one of the big ones here is audio enhancement. Audio enhancement is required by the state. This is a panic device that all of our teachers are required to wear. It also serves very similar to this microphone in the room. As a teacher walking around, it amplifies their voice to every student in the classroom. But if something were to happen in a school, the teacher would just push buttons and it would send response to the office, but also to our law enforcement partners, and they would come to our school. We have submitted a grant for those. We have about half of our schools completed, but it's going to take about another $6 million to finish the rest of our district. Door locks are also now something that's in state code. They have to be a single push button lock. And it's not as easy as switching out just the lock. In a lot of our schools, it's replacing the entire door to make those locks feasible. And so we did get a $2.9 million grant, and we are utilizing that. The state has allowed us to use some of that funding. But it's estimated about another $18 million to transfer out all of the locks and the doors in the district. Another one that's come out is just security glazing on windows. This is still in flux about kind of the width around certain entrances. But if you think in one elementary, it's about $150,000 to put this glazing on all the required windows. We have, our maintenance department has applied for a grant. We haven't heard back on that, but we have tried. We're looking for this. We are ahead on this one. We have single point entries on all of our schools but one, which means that every school you have to go in, you have to be buzzed in. It just secures the exterior of our schools. The one that's not finished is Bonneville, just because of the difficult layout of that school. And some of the quotes we've gotten back, it could be up to $2 million for that one school. And so we've got to just make some decisions around that. But improving security cameras, first aid bleed kits, secure fencing around school grounds, school guardians. All of our secondary schools have school resource officers, but those resource officers are about $89,000 per officer, which is funding, again, that is in our budget. We're working with that, but now they're asking also to have school guardians at elementaries. And they have to have bell-to-bell coverage, which is very difficult to do. But these are all state unfunded mandates, and we have time to put this in, but this is why we have to start looking to get ahead, and we're looking for every grant we can possibly find.
And just for reference, those are from 2004, or 2024, it's HB 84, and from last year it's HB 40. So if you have questions on those security mandates, that's where you can find that information.
Brock, how
Yes.
many additional, on that bottom one, school guardians, how many additional ones do we need to hire to meet the state mandate?
We would need one for every elementary school.
Yeah, do you have a total number?
Kurt, how many elementaries do we have total? 30 elementaries that we would need to have a guardian in.
And then, okay.
Okay. Couple other things. We have obviously inflationary cost in building and maintenance. Our maintenance department has done a fabulous job. We have some big needs that have come up in the last year. Just for example, we are working on boilers at Fremont and Rocky Mountain Junior High. Snowcrest Junior High has an air handler. Those three are $3.4 million just for those items. And I want to emphasize one thing. This is not because maintenance has not been done. Fremont's our most recent, besides Westfield High School, that's 30 years old. And it may not seem 30 years old, but it's 30 years old. And anything in any of our houses after 30 years would likely need to be replaced. And so it's things that we have worked through the years to maintain, and everything has an end of life to it. We have roofs that need repairs or replacement. Those three, Roy High, Uinta, and Green Acres Elementaries, those are around $3 million just for those roofs. And then just to continue to maintain our schools, make sure they're operational. Again, this is not necessarily increasing this. This is just maintaining what we're looking for. The state has done some different cuts of programs. CTE, there were 2 programs cut last year, CTSOs, which is an extracurricular within our CTE departments. CCA is a class that our 7th graders take. The funding has been cut for those, as well as various fees at the school level. And so that has been put back on districts to try and just keep those programs. We're not looking to cut programs. We want to keep those programs because those 2 CTE ones are some of our strongest, and they grow our future workforce. CTE is an incredible program, and so I don't think it's prudent for us to cut those. I think that's something where we can find ways to support that. But again, it's not adding, it's just maintaining. Our insurance goes up each year, and this last year it was a 6.4% increase because of medical costs. That was $2.2 million that we try and bring back in. And we have a 80-20 split with our educators. The district covers a heavy portion of our insurance costs, and we want to make sure we can maintain that. And I just have to emphasize again, this is maintaining existing status. And any of our educators in the room know class size is a big thing. We want to keep those. We want to keep our paraprofessionals. We want to keep our behavior supports. We get a lot of concerned calls because of behaviors in the classroom, and we need those people in there that know how to work with that. We need competitive salaries for our educators. We have some districts all around us that have higher starting salaries for our teachers, and we need to make sure that we're bringing in the best teachers we have, and then providing supports for our highest needs students with disabilities. That's something that we are not fully funded on those students, and they deserve the best. And so it's something where that's not an area we can afford to skip out on. We need to make sure we have what they need, and that's what this is about. This is maintaining, not growing areas. I think this is an important thing that I want to show, and it's comparing districts across the state. You'll see the board and voted. If you remember, that's where we're maximized at 20. And so anyone who's above 20 tax increment is in green. And this shows fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25. Anyone in green is set to maximize those amounts. And you can see that we're down at the bottom. All of those above 20 are putting that back on those taxpayers. When you hit 20, you're maxed out from the state, and that should be, in my opinion, and my recommendation, where we should move towards. And it's not all at once, but it helps us to get to where we need to be and utilize the state funds that are available. We don't need to be at the top of that list, but we should be working towards getting to that point. The capital is where we move some of those debt service amounts just to get that back up. If you went back one more year, we're back at the bottom. So I think it's important to see where we are in relation to some of the other districts around the state. A big thing that came out, and this can all be found on utahtaxpayers.org. There are 64 different entities around the state holding truth and taxations this year. 15 of those being school districts, and most of those because of this hold harmless change by the state legislature. The average proposed increase by Weber County entities is 22.3. Now again, I have to emphasize, proposed does not mean what's actually going to happen. Right? We were proposed at just about 22. Our recommendation is not anywhere near that. Okay? The proposed increase among all entities around the state was 27.29. And then the average for school districts was 17.49. So I have to emphasize, this is not just a Weber School District thing. This is statewide, and this is not just an education thing. It's all across different entities. One thing that I think is important to point out, and hopefully this is beneficial to some in the room, if there are struggles that are being had, Weber County offers different tax relief programs, and sometimes it's just not known where to go or who to ask. This will take you to the county website that has all of the information on how to get help and how to get support. So if there are struggles, I would encourage you to go take a look at this. This is in the packet that you should have access to, but it's also found on the Weber County Audit and Assessor's website. So board, just to recap and restate the recommendation. The recommendation would be to set the board local levy to 0.000844, set the voted local levy to 0.000900, and to set the overall tax rate to 0.005792. That raises an additional $9,722,950. Reasons for that: moving towards those 20 tax increments, continue implementing those safety standards, that there is a deadline that we have to have those all in place by down the road, and then just maintaining our existing operational status. That change comes with a yearly change of $46.30 on the average residence and $3.90 per month at that amount. So President Whittison and the board, we now need to move into the public hearing to receive input from patrons related to the proposed 2025 tax rate presentation.
Thanks, Brock. Okay, board, I need a motion that we move into a public hearing. Janice and Jan, any discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Okay, so we'll now begin our public hearing. Again, each of you that come up and comment, you'll have 3 minutes. We would ask that you would give your name and where you're from, and if you are representing yourselves or a group of individuals. What we're going to do, where we have sign-up sheets and we have people here, we will do them first, and we'll move to the ones online. It looks like we have about 55 people here tonight that want to make comment, and then when we're done with that group, we will move to those who are online. So those who are watching online, you'll need to wait for a little while to have your turn, and so I will invite you up as
President Whittison, can I just make the comment that your comments are just comments that we're not answering any questions. So we're just here to listen.
Not dialogue.
So there's no dialogue. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, let's start with Stuart Campbell.
evening, board members and Superintendent Butters. My name is Stuart Campbell. I'm a resident of Pleasant View, Utah, and a parent of 4 school-age children. My bachelor's degree is in finance, and I have an MBA from Utah State. I'm also a certified financial planner. I know money. I have studied it my entire life. I am here tonight because I care deeply about education, but even more, I care more about fiscal responsibility, transparency, and public trust. Before raising taxes, I believe the district must demonstrate that it is managing its current funds appropriately. You are proposing a 21% increase in property taxes, which will significantly impact homeowners and businesses and families who might be struggling. I want to be clear, this is a choice about increasing spending and not maintaining current services. First recommendation I have for you, since you may not know about money, is use the reserves. According to the latest financial report, Weber School District is sitting on $114 million in deposits and investments, including in the Public Treasury's Investment Fund. These funds are supposed to be used to help cover operating and emergency expenses. These are taxpayers' dollars already collected. Why are you sitting on them and not using them while also demanding more from us? We hear phrases like rainy day fund. Well, board, it's raining. Use the funds. Second, my time. Second, reduce excessive administrative pay. Public salary data shows that Superintendent Butters made over $300,000 in 2024. 2 assistant superintendents made over $260,000. If all the top 25 highest paid employees in the district took a 10% cut, we would raise $2 million to cover the budget deficit. Third, review vendor contracts and pause non-essential projects and new spending. In 2024, Weber School District paid out over almost $500 million in vendor contracts. One vendor called Batch Post alone was $368 million. We need to do audits, competitive bidding, and pause all new projects and new spending until we can assess where our money is going and why. Fourth, we need to maximize state matching funds, which Brock clearly articulated. For failure of leadership in past boards and past superintendencies, we are in a situation where now they should have done it years ago. So I'll be brief with that. Fifth, we need to recognize that we have declining enrollment. According to the Utah State Board of Education's website, from 2018 to 2024, we've lost nearly 800 students, and that's just the average that they're looking at. That's the size of equivalently an elementary school. Pleasant View, where I live, has 2 elementary schools right next to each other. They are nowhere near capacity. Close Loman View. If enrollment is dropping, expenses should adjust. Instead, we're seeing increasing in spending, and taxpayers deserve a budget that reflects reality and not unchecked growth. We want strong schools, but strong schools also require strong leadership. When you sit on $114 million in reserves, pay top administrators 6-figure salaries, fail to pursue all state funds, and continue major construction spending during a time of falling enrollment, it is not fair to ask the public for more. I ask you today, do what is right. Please vote no on this tax increase and take the time to get your financial house in order first.
Thank you.
Sincerely, Stuart Campbell.
Jennifer Graviat, please.
Hello, President Widdowson, Board, and Superintendent Butters. My name is Jenny Gravitt. I live in South Ogden, and I'm speaking as an individual. So I wanted to tell you that yesterday I was out at Romer Park just throwing the ball for my dog, and a group of elementary-age students came up to me. We started talking. I said to them, what are you most looking forward to in August? And I thought they were going to say something summer-related, like last-minute trip to Disneyland or sleepover with grandma or I don't know, a pool party. And one girl, she looked to be about 10, she said, she kind of yelled it. She said, starting at our new school. And then they all yelled, Roosevelt. Well, this made me really think about the importance of maintained buildings. That kind of excitement about learning, about the place where students spend their days matters. And I realize that this tax increase isn't for new buildings, but my point is this. Our students deserve buildings and learning spaces that feel safe, that feel updated and inspiring, and whether we like it or not, that takes money. As a teacher in Weber School District, I've taught in a school that had to close the doors temporarily because the boiler exploded. I've seen roof leaks during storms. I've been in classrooms where temperature was so hot that students felt sick. These are not conditions that foster learning. I know you know that. These are not conditions that foster pride. I believe wholeheartedly that our students deserve to feel proud of their schools. They deserve facilities that are safe, that reflect the value we place on education and their future. And this is why I support the recommended tax increase, not because I like to give my money away, little that I have, but because I do find value in giving my money to worthwhile causes. And I can think of no better cause than investing in our students, investing in the spaces of learning that keep our students safe, and teach them that they are important enough to learn in a place they can be proud of. I'm grateful for everyone who's here tonight, whether we agree or not. What I hope is that we will see this same passion during the upcoming legislative session when we need people speaking up and asking legislators to fully fund legislative mandates like school safety, to increase the WPU count for districts, and to hold districts harmless when their combined tax rate is low. It's just crazy to me that because Weber's combined tax rate is one of the lowest in the state, this district stands to lose well over $10 million. I feel like this has put you as a local school board in a tough place, and like many, giving up that money that would go to benefit students doesn't sit well with me. So in summary, I do support this recommended tax increase because I believe in putting our money where it makes the biggest difference, in our schools, in our people, and in the future of this community. I also want to say how much I appreciate all of you, those who have engaged, those who have texted me late at night, those who have had conversations. I appreciate Mr. Mitchell, the business administrator, to educate us tonight. And I appreciate that you're willing to be here to listen to us and have these difficult conversations and make difficult decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. William Decker, please.
Decker, a North Ogden City resident. I'm speaking in behalf of myself, and I hope I'm speaking in behalf of the other residents of other communities around here. I'm challenging your authority to just do what you're doing right now, because most of what you're looking at right now is capital improvements to the schools, which should be put as a bond voted on by the people. Do you really have the legal authority in this body right here to do what you have proposed? I would say split this, put it through a legal review, and see what you are legally allowed to do, and do only what you're legally allowed. Put the rest in a bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Merrill, please.
My name is Sarah Merrill. I am speaking for myself, and I'm from Eden, Utah. This is the first time I've ever made comment in a meeting before. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I feel really bolstered by the crowd. These are my notes that I have spent furiously trying to have something specific and written out to say, but instead I'm going to speak from my heart. I'm a mother of 7 wonderful children. 5 of them are in this school district. I used to teach in this school district. When I hear that my taxes are going up year after year for reasons I don't get to control, we don't get to control the value prices of our homes, but we continue to live in them, and we don't get to claim that money back. It's just what we're living in. Our taxes go up, and thank goodness that tax rate goes down, because I still keep paying higher and higher amounts. I paid just over $3,000 6 years ago. This year, if that 20% were realized, I would be paying over $5,500 in property taxes. What do I give up in place of that tax? We have gone from a 2-income home to a 1-income home. Just like losing state dollars for the district and saying, well, we want to keep what they gave us before. I would love to keep the salary I used to make before, but I don't make that anymore. And I have to learn to live with it. And I'm asking the district to learn to live with it too. The tax rate is good that it's low. It is okay that the state says, learn to be less reliant on us. Learn to live within your means. I have to do it, and I'm asking the board to do that for the district as well. And everybody else has something amazing to say, and their comments are powerful too. But for me, that's the most important thing. Learn to live within our means. Keep the taxes where they are. Do not change them. I don't need to sacrifice things for my children. My school fees are $249. This tax increase is almost that same amount. Which one do I get to pay? I have to pay both. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Walquist.
Hello, my name is Katie Walquist, and I live in South Ogden, so just a few minutes from here. I am being very brave tonight by doing this because I don't think it's going to make me very popular in this room, but I felt it very important that I come make public comment to say that I support this increase. And I want to qualify that by saying I begrudgingly support this increase because, of course, I am not super excited to give more money to anybody right now. I have so much compassion for everyone. My family has had to make choices, and we have had to change our life, and I understand how difficult that can be. But of course, I also want to make sure we're being fiscally responsible. I think we can all agree on that. But it is our students and our children who will pay the cost if we do not make this increase, and that is too high of a cost. I have two students. Actually, my oldest both of them are actually graduates from Ogden High. My younger son is a special education student. He has been from early intervention, is now currently a life skills student at Canyon View. If you're not aware, Canyon View he's in a program where he is able to learn life skills post-high school. Earlier this year, I've shared this story a few times, but earlier this year I was in the parking lot of Canyon View, and I watched a special education student come darting out of the building and run into traffic. And I immediately my heart stopped, and then I watched this whole group of educators run after him, link their arms, surround this student, and protect him. And it was such an amazing visual representation of what is happening in our schools every day. These teachers are giving everything, and they don't know if they can fix the copy machine. Our students are in buildings that have leaking roofs. That is unacceptable, and it's unacceptable for our families, our students, and our community, and what the future of our community is going to look like. So I am happy to stand tonight and say I will proudly link my arms with the district and with the teachers, and I will surround our students. And even though I don't love giving you more money, I will be happy to give you more money if it means that is going to something that is the most important thing, and that is our children. So thank you.
Thanks. Chase Cottle.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Butters. I appreciate the opportunity to stand today and voice my opinion as a citizen of Weber County. I have grown up in Weber County. I have loved living here. I went through Weber School District growing up. It's a wonderful place. I've decided to have my family here and plant my roots in Weber County. It is a wonderful place. However, I was disappointed to hear of the tax increase. We all know that inflation is going up, and that affects everyone. Everyone in this room has been affected by that. We have seen prices go up. At the same time, we've also seen the prices on our homes increase as well. And by the commensurate rate, we also get increased revenue for the Weber School District. I understand what was outlined earlier, that creates an inverse relationship with the amount of funding that the school district receives. However, when you look at the amount of money that's coming into Weber School District, is what was pointed out, which was significant, there's more money in the pot than there's ever been. And for those of us who have single incomes or not affluent, having an extra cost every year is significant. When I was discussing with my 80-year-old father, who's also a resident of Weber County and has lived here his whole life, he told me, son, when you go to that meeting, please ask the board where I'm going to get the extra money to pay to Weber County School District. Social Security went up 2.5%, and I'm being asked to pay 20% of my income towards Weber School District. So where do I get that money from? And I understand that the students deserve the best. I often hear that quoted in the meetings I've attended over Zoom, that students deserve the best. And I agree. I have children in Weber School District, and I want them to have the best education that they can. However, I also recognize that when my students come to me in the store holding something saying, Dad, can I have this? We often have to make choices that are difficult sometimes to tell your kids, no, we can't have that at this time. Maybe in the future we'll be able to do that. There's a popular saying that was in the Depression that says, and I want to quote it correctly, so let me pull that out. It said, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And that would be my sentiment that I would share with the board tonight, that this increase is something that our citizens are suffering under, and that we look for ways and other ways and means to find those funds in order to fund the students. Thank you.
Julian Reese.
Good afternoon. My name is Jillian Reese. I live in My name is Jillian Reese, and I live in Far West. I had some questions, and you said you weren't taking questions. But I am going to ask this one anyhow. It won't be answered, but I am very curious. There are always new buildings being built throughout any year in the 21 cities where property tax is paid. That has not been included in your budget calculations. How is that money counted in your bookkeeping, and what is it used for? I called, and I could only get 10 cities, but in 10 cities there were 800 new buildings, commercial or residential. That's a lot of money that you're getting at the end of the year that you have not even accounted for. So my question is, 11 of those cities didn't respond with how many. But if there were 800 more, that's 600 more property taxes that you are going to receive at the end of the year. Thank you.
Pam Brown. Pam Brown, please.
Hello, I'm Pam Brown. I'm from Liberty, and I'm just representing myself. Oops, sorry. Usually, I'm a teacher, so usually my voice carries, but basically, by the way, I appreciate the presentation that took place. That did help explain a lot of things, but I still do have some concerns. I'm here tonight to urge the board to please vote to keep the tax increase to no more than 5%. Honestly, I was hoping the taxes would go down. I already live in an area with very high taxes. Enrollment in our schools have gone down significantly, which would really be the only reason for increasing taxes. I know that there's buildings are old and everything. It's like I can't afford to fix my roof myself, and sometimes we do have to wait for certain things. There's many on fixed incomes that would have trouble paying any extra taxes, let alone 21%. I worked as a teacher in this district for 13 years, over 20 years in another state. When I came to this district, they only credited me with 13 of my 20 years experience. I took a $30,000 pay cut to teach here. So my pension is much lower than it would have been. And I now substitute teach to supplement that. I use that money to pay our taxes. But I hear subs, I know I can't ask questions, but I hear subs are not getting a raise this year. I don't know if that's true or not, which would be unfortunate, but we're already among the lowest, the sub pay is already among the lowest in the state, actually in the country. So that puts me as one of those on a fixed income. I'm not here trying to get a raise. I wouldn't mind one. But having worked in the district, I'm very aware that there is quite a bit of waste that has taken place, as much as we do try to do great jobs on that. It says we all have to work together we have to work on our budgets and work within those budgets that we have, and I feel like the district should do the same. Thank you.
Cal McCrary, please. And let's play this like a baseball game. Let's have David Hansen come up and be on deck. Maybe we can get through this a little quicker.
I'm Cal McCrary. I've been a resident of Weber County now for nearly half a century. And in all that time, I've yet to see the school district actually propose a tax reduction. I've seen a number of tax increases over the years. And generally speaking, the board generally kind of tends to rubber stamp everything that the school district wants, even though the board is elected by the people to represent the people. Here in the district, I mean, Stuart did a really great job of laying out a lot of the financial stuff. The thing that distresses me is the amount of money that's being spent on schools. I mean, you bonded for schools to be built at $279 million. Next thing we know, there's $60 million over budget. So then you jockey things around and come up with another $60 million to try and finish off the projects. The terrace, or the Roosevelt Elementary School, now dwarfs T.H. Bell Junior High School. And so, I mean, that school is like way overbuilt. And because the old Washington Terrace Elementary, when it was demolished and the new one was rebuilt, the two are really kind of a match for one another, and they're laid out similarly. Nowadays, schools are being built as monuments to education. They're not being built just to educate children. And then I find out that there's now been a psychologist hired for each and every school in the district. I hate to tell you this, but not all psychologists are created equal, okay? Psychologists come with their own baggage. They come with their own value systems. They come with their own different backgrounds in education. And if you take a kid in there that's already kind of messed up, there's an excellent possibility he's going to be more messed up when that psychologist finishes with him. And so I want to tell you what you need to do is the school needs to get out of the psychology business, because they're not in it to be psychologists. They're in it to be educators. You should educate children and educate them to be resilient. Don't educate them to want to be safe all the time. Educate them to get out in the world and be able to make a difference, because our kids nowadays are being taught to be sissies. They're not being taught to get out and get after it. And that's where you're lacking. And also, they're not being taught any history of the United States of America. They're not being taught what it is to be an American. When I was in school, you were taught what it was to be patriotic. Nowadays, that's not happening. And that the school board or the school district is setting on over $100 million in some kind of rainy day fund, and you've got schools that, according to some of our educators, have leaky roofs. Shame on you. Thank you.
Let's go with David Hansen, Pam McKinnon, and then Jim McHugh. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Board. I was going to make that suggestion when I got up here, so appreciate that. I'm speaking on behalf of a group, me and my wife, okay? We moved to Liberty 4.5 years ago, and we love it up there. But I have to tell you, in 2021, according to my tax records, I paid $2,279 that year for taxes. Now, this is just the school, Weber School Board portion. In 22, it went to $3,500. 23, it went to $3,400. It went down slightly, $100. In 24, it was $4,001, and this year the website shows it's suggested or projected to be $4,700. That is a 209% increase in my taxes to the school. And I appreciate the presentation that was given here earlier, saying with the county that we have no control, you have no control over the value of homes, but my home value went up 6% last year. Just last year. Well, that's money that you would get also, and that's, I'm sure, including that calculation. I'm having a hard time understanding this inverse relationship when my home taxes have increased $2,500 in 4 years. Just the school portion. I'm having a real hard time figuring that out. I also see that in 2021, the percent of county taxes that went to the district were 54%, 54.28% of the county taxes. This year, they're proposed at 60.13. 54 to 60, over 60% of the total county taxes. I was also very surprised when I looked into the salaries. I just printed out the top 20 salaries, and I know this has been mentioned before, but the lowest in the top 20 is $237,000.44. The top is $301,576. In those top 20, 10% of that will make up the total of double what you need. I think that there needs to be some serious review of what the salaries are, and I know you have to say we keep the best, but I know there are a lot of people down here on this list that would, in a heartbeat, take that job for a lot less money if that person left. As I look at this, I do appreciate what you do, but I'm very concerned, and I appreciate not having to go into heart surgery. I'm just having heart palpitations over the suggested budget. If it really isn't 21%, I'll be grateful. And please do what you can to live within the budgets.
Pam McKinnon, Jim McHugh, Leanne Bowles, Tracy Davies. Go ahead,
Hello, Board.
please.
Hello, Superintendent. My name is Pam McKinnon. I live in Plain City. Full disclosure on me, because I feel like I should be honest and open, just like truth in taxation. I'm currently a substitute in Weber School District and Davis School District. I don't know what I make as a substitute here, but I know I make more at Davis, but I don't sub for the money. So luckily for me, I'm able to do it because I love kids. Sounds hokey, but it's true, and I love secondary students, junior high and high school. So my comments are, quite honestly, no amount at this point of a tax increase is acceptable to me. None. Zero. Absolutely none. I don't, not sorry, I need to quit saying sorry. I don't care about state matching funds. I don't. I feel like it's a bait and switch to come and be told that our top rate is 21 or something percent, 21 point something percent, and then be told, oh, but now we're saying we only are going to increase you 5 point something percent for 4 years. You know, let's do the math, and are we sure there's not going to be a bond or some other fee increase in those 4 years? Of course there will be. So I feel like it's a bait and switch, and I would question as to why you're supposed to give us whether or not you're going to hold a truth in taxation, code name for proposed tax increase, June 1st, but you don't meet until the middle of June. I think that allows for this, what I will cynically call a bait and switch. You need to change when you hold that meeting, or change when it's required to declare a truth in taxation. Let's see, I numbered, but dang, I wrote a lot of notes. I too appreciate the presentation. I am not a money girl, obviously, or I'd know what my hourly wage was. Anyway, so I don't care about state funds. Those are still tax dollars. No matter if you want to say grant, whatever, that money comes from us. Still tax dollars. Only in government, honestly, is a use it or lose it a virtue. You know, I don't get to say, "Oh, I didn't use that. I better hurry and use it, or I'm going to lose it." My husband would just not, think that was an okay excuse on Amazon or wherever else. Why don't we help the state save money? Why don't we come in under budget and encourage the state to be more frugal and more accountable? There's actually a movement I've seen where citizens are going to lobby the legislature to decrease the funds that they would give to the school districts by the amount that they increase taxes for this. So I'm not so sure I'm not on board with that. I also wanted to state we're all on a fixed income, most of us anyway, because we don't rely on taxpayer dollars. We talk often about our senior citizens who collect Social Security being on a fixed income. I can't remember the last time I received a 21% increase or a 5% increase in a year, or even a COLA. So I would ask you,
Thank you.
to not increase our taxes at all.
Jim McHugh, Leanne Bowles, Tracy Davies, Don Davies. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Jim McHugh. I reside in unincorporated Huntsville up in the valley, and I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and my wife, who could not make it here this evening. I asked the board, you should be ashamed of the never-ending tax increase request annually. Some is in the form of a mill levy increase, some is in the form of general obligation bonds. All of these things are tax increases, however you want to categorize them, but it is never ending. As it has been said by several people earlier, if you take a look at the amount of money and the increase that we give to the school district over the last 10 years, the math doesn't compute. My taxes have over doubled. And again, the taxation and the rates are based upon unrealized gains of the value of our home, not on the actual tangible value of what we have. Do you actually make money on things on unrealized gains? Or if you invest, you only make money on realized gains? You're making money on an unrealized gains. A couple of points here. Inflation is currently, as we were told in the news recently, is running at 2.7%. Last year, it was running at 2.5%. Just so you know, I happen to be an individual in my 70s. I'm senior on fixed income. You're taxing us seniors out of our homes. Yet we have no burden on the school district. I come from a large family of 6 myself, and I have other family members who have large families. When we sit down there, my father decided about our education. He gladly paid his school tax and his property taxes, but he wanted a different and a better education for his kids. So he sent us all to private schools. No vouchers, no charter schools, no nothing. He just ponied up and bucked up, and he and my mother did without to make sure we could get the education they wanted. Why are we giving away all these special enhancements, or whatever you want to call them, to people taking money out of your revenue base? This is insane. Just so you know, next year's Social Security COLA is projected to be 2.6%. According to Mr. Mitchell's interpretation he gave us earlier, he said somehow I didn't understand his convoluted formulations that he didn't make. Somebody else devised that, I'm sure. That would be 5.6%. So if it came down to 5.6%, he's asking for twice.
Thank you. We appreciate what you've told us.
Leanne Bowles informed us that she does not wish to speak. There was some confusion with this item sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tracy Davies. I'm a resident of South Ogden, and I am representing myself. Just a little bit about me. I have been teaching for 16 years. I'm an elementary school teacher. 10 of those years I spent in Weber School District, and gratefully I have moved to Ogden School District, where Luke Rasmussen has done a fantastic job in managing the budget and listening to the teachers. Just something to take into account as you move forward with your teachers. They're starting to leave Ogden. They're starting to leave Weber. We had an opening for a teacher just last week. We had 80 applicants. 20 of them were coming to our district in our interviews because they said that Ogden School District knew how to treat its teachers, and it was a servant to the teachers, not their king or their boss. So just to be aware that Ogden School District is doing it well. Please look at what they're doing there. I am here to say do not raise the taxes. Couple of things. In Ogden School District, we learned from Luke Rasmussen that they did a study in Ogden School District. They paid someone to come in and find out that they are going to lose 80 to 1,000 students per year for the next 10 years. I don't know if you guys have done a study on that to find out what's going to happen, but if you've lost 300 students, that's about what? You figure 20 students per teacher, or 30 students per teacher, that's 10 teachers at $70,000, $80,000 a year. So you're going to go down that many teachers, and you're going to go down that many students. You probably need to look into a study as to how you can save money that way, because you're going to start losing students. And why are you losing students? Because our children, I don't know if your children are at the age of getting married and having children, but our children can't afford to have children because their water bills have gone up $30 a month. Their electric bills have gone up $30 a month, and their costs of living have gone up $30 a month. They're not having children anymore. We are harming our families by asking for this increase in money, you guys, because they're not going to have children. And the children that I do have in my classroom, we've got so many mental health issues in there, and they were asking, why are the psychologists in there? It's because our parents are so stressed out. Our parents can't function and be home with their children and take care of them. Our children are coming to school stressed, having anxiety attacks, and us as teachers, we're just trying to teach them, but we end up being their mental health support. So what I'm saying is, please consider the impact that it has on these young families that want to start out having families that can't afford to have these kind of increases with all of the burdens that they have on them already. Thank you.
Don Davies, Brian Bartholomew, Farrell Woods, and Steve Quinney, please. Go ahead.
Don Davies, South Ogden. I'm the lesser half of the two of us. My wife just spoke. I think we can all agree that we care about our children and their education. And I'm not confident that additional money always equates to better education. It should also be better used money. In the presentation, would it be possible to send this presentation out a week or two before the board meeting so that we have a chance to look it over? I know that I had a hard time keeping track of all the figures and the calculations. It was just really difficult to follow as far as that goes. But I did catch that you started out with a 21% increase, which is an extreme anchor, and then you dropped it down to 18%. And so we're supposed to feel good about that 3% decrease. Okay, that's an extreme anchor. And I noticed that in the presentation, you kind of went back and forth between dollars and percentages. It'd be useful if you just stayed with like percentages to keep things simple and straightforward. It also kind of sounds like you've made a lot of justifications for why we need to spend more. It's kind of like the NBA. You know, one player thinks that they should get more money because another player is getting a certain amount of money. We can find reasons to justify increases, but what we need to do is we need to ask the right questions to get the right answers. And the question that we ought to consider is, how can we make living in South Ogden and Weber County affordable for families? What my wife didn't say is we have a daughter that's getting married in 3 days. She has a master's degree in data analytics. She's marrying a guy that's an electrical engineer. They probably won't be able to afford a house for many, many years. It's just gotten out of control. The houses have increased, the housing market's increased 110%. Median salaries increased 14%. So how are young families supposed to afford to live in our community with prices continuing to increase? I'd also like to see multiple bids. What you had was just one value.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let's add Wendy Meyer and Eric Byers, please. Go ahead.
I am not Brian Bartholomew. He had to leave, and I'm his neighbor, and he asked me to share his words with you. I have them here. Is that okay? Okay. Superintendent, President, board members, thank you for the work that you do. It's not always an easy task. I'd like the audience to give our teachers and our staff across Weber schools a nice round of applause. They work hard. They do a lot of good work. And this isn't an easy job. I'm married to a 30-plus year educator, works for Weber Schools, and I have a front row seat to the ever-changing educational models and programs that are piled upon our teachers year after year after year after year. And the money that's spent on these new programs really long before we have any data on whether the old programs are working. As a taxpayer, I'm looking, this is from me and from Brian. As a taxpayer, he's looking for you to demonstrate financial responsibility. A 2-story field house is not financial responsibility. How many leaky roofs, how many boilers, how many parking lot repairs could be done with just the cost of maintenance on that field house at the new Westside High is going to cost every year. The artificial turf fields that have been placed at all of the high schools, far more expensive to maintain than a grass field. The all-weather tracks, I know that they're nice, but are they really necessary? He wonders what things there are that we're funding that we shouldn't. The question I ask is, if you look out in this audience right now, you'll see lawyers, physicians, dentists, surgeons, researchers, superintendents, tradesmen, pilots, board members, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, financial managers, rocket scientists, elected officials that are all leading our society. And what do we all have in common? We all went to functional schools that were not extravagant, right? And we're leading society. You all are leading society. Think of the schools that you went to. They didn't have indoor fields. They didn't have indoor practice facilities. I went to a high school that had a dirt track, and we had kids that made it to the NFL on a dirt track in a grass field. We're looking for examples of financial responsibility and frugality. Those kinds of things tell us that you aren't being frugal. There are other things that you do where you are being frugal, but those are glaring examples of money being spent unnecessarily that have no educational benefit. Our job is not to entertain our children into education. You all are perfect examples of what can happen in a very nondescript, functional school. Look at you. You're a great. Thank you.
Alan Miller and Ken Pilarczyk, please. What? Who's that? Yeah, I was just adding a couple more to the end. So, one before that. We're at Farrell Woods.
Oh, Farrell Woods is.
Oh,
decided
okay,
not to
thank
speak.
you. Then we'll go with Steve Quinney, please.
Well, first of all, I want to compliment the board for the job they're doing, even though I might disagree with them. I don't have a formal presentation, but I do stand here and probably represent most of these people, some of whom are willing to get up here and make a fool of yourself, and some are not, but that's okay. You're here. So I was handed a paper when I came in for the citizenship. Weber citizens involved in education. Now, I don't have a formal education. I don't have any letters behind my name, except taxpayer. And I do. I pay my taxes, or you'll take my home away. So I have a lot of choices, right? Well, my biggest question is simple. If I was to give you $100 million, could you live within your budget? Do I get a second? Well, if I understand right, you have $114 million of our money sitting there idling. Well, yeah, you got to get another 14,000, million from us. And I know you made a very good presentation, Brock. Well performed. And you can justify, I'm sure, of raising our taxes. And I'll tell you, I didn't understand the whole presentation, but I don't suppose anybody else did. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. All I know is at the end of the day, I've got to come up with another $2,500. Surprise. Well, it's up to you people to live within a budget. You've caught the same disease as our national people. We don't need to worry about the budget. We can just raise the taxes. Or I'm just about out of time. Thank you again for all you do.
Thank you. Wendy Meyer is next. Sorry. Wendy Meyer, Eric Byers, Alan Miller, Ken Pilarczyk.
Hi, I'm Wendy Myers from Hooper, Utah, and I'm a retired budget analyst from Hill Air Force Base, and so I'm familiar with budgets. But I looked up, according to the Fitch Ratings report dated the 28th of June of 24, that the enrollment for schools dipped in 23 by 1.93%, with a further decline in 24 of 1%. Now, I've heard the number 300, a decline of 300, but this is more like a decline of 1,000 students. Yet my concern is, I believe that in the central office, in the central district office, there has been an increase in the number of employees. And I've heard by about 10. I don't know for sure. I'm trying to get that number. I couldn't find it on the internet, and I'm having HR send me that number. But I've heard it's as much as 10. And these are full benefited. You know, you look at salaries, but then you add in the full benefits on top of that, and that's a lot of money. And so what I would propose and what I would like to see is to see that number at the central office get back down to about the fiscal year 2022 number. And I would also like to conclude by reminding the board that as parents and grandparents, we're expected to support the PTA fundraisers and different activities they have every year. And I know that one of my granddaughter's schools, they raised $30,000 for playground equipment. And that's a lot of money. But also, you know, at Fremont High, for the volleyball team, the parents have to come up with $700 per child to play on the volleyball team. To play on the golf team, there's a 15-member golf team, boys golf team, and they're expected to come up with $10,000 to play golf. And this is for transportation and maybe uniforms, I'm not sure what else. But when you look at that, and we're not only paying taxes, but we are paying so much more when it comes to these fundraising activities. And so I'm just asking you to please leave within your, I'm sorry, my mouth's dry. Please leave it within your budget and not tax us anymore. And to remind you too, that an increase in tax now is a gift that keeps on giving year after year after year, because it doesn't really decrease. Thank you.
Eric Byers, Alan Miller, Ken Pilarczyk, Stephanie Edmondson, and Beth Kenswick. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm Alan Miller from Riverdale City. When I got my property tax notice, it showed that my portion of the school district tax of my house is 57%. I have one elementary school in my city. That school was built in 1966. It hasn't been updated except 2 trailers. Why are we building $52 million renovation elementary schools? Why are we building big luxury schools? When we went to school, we had small little schools that were built back in the 50s and 60s. We turned out fine. Stop coddling our kids. Teach them, don't coddle them. You say that part of the raise or increases for building maintenance. I have to maintain my house. I can't go get money from somebody else to maintain my house. School buses, maintain them. I got to maintain my cars to go to work to pay the school district their tax money. Small remodeling projects, it takes me 10 years to do one small project because that's all I can afford. You guys need to start living within your budget and stop asking us for more money. As I look out over the crowd, the majority of these people are on fixed incomes. How do they keep increasing without losing their houses? That's just a simple question. Thank you.
Thank you.
One
My name
second.
is Ken
Did we skip Eric Byers? Did he step out maybe? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. My name is Ken Pilarczyk. I live in Ogden City. I'm representing my family. It's kind of emotional for me because I don't know how we talk about our kids and how they need an education and that, and I agree they do. Foremost in my mind is how are they going to afford to pay for a house? Rent currently in this area is $2,000 for a 1-bedroom house. Then you want to add tax money on top of that. I mean, they don't pay it on rent, but tax money adds to the cost of everything. The owner of that rental house or whatever, and I feel for the kids. I am making it. I heard that the district has to cover a 6.9% raise in health insurance. My health insurance is going up 19.8%. this coming year. I appreciate you guys listening to us, and I hope you take it serious, and that this is not a dog and pony show, that you guys are listening, but I have a feeling that whatever we say makes no difference. I really do, and our kids do deserve the best. My granddaughter, she has told me numerous times, out of all of her classes, she has 2 teachers in the whole day that do any teaching. All the rest is done by computers. And that's not acceptable. That's where some of our problems lie. Computers are fine, but the computer age has ruined some of our children. And I think we need to back off of that and do a little more in-person thing. My understanding is that Weber High School and Fremont High School, their performance isn't the best. It's not rated the best. And I think we need if that's going to happen, we need to pay for performance. That in order to make money, you better perform well. I mean, anything else I have to say, everybody had already said. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I hope you guys take this seriously, because you guys are starting to hurt us, really. Thank you.
Stephanie Edmondson, Beth Kinswick, David Rice, and Shanna Francis. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Edmondson. I grew up in Weber County. I graduated from Roy High School. My current residence is in Huntsville. And I just come representing myself, a taxpayer. My background is engineering and materials science, and also medical technology. So I deal in numbers. Many things can be said with numbers and statistics, and we heard a lot of numbers tonight. A lot of numbers really rapidly, really quickly, changing units of measure, increments to dollars to percentages. Increment of tax is only $28. Well, bottom line is, I look at the tax I pay, my property tax has gone up. Bottom line, all of your taxes have gone up. I've lived here 30 years, and it's not ever gone down. In 2022, property tax for schools went up 22.9%. In 2023, another 9.8%. So now we're up to 35% or so. So even if you only raised it another 9% in 4 years, it's been 42% increased. That's a lot. That is a lot. And enough is enough. We don't need fancy schools. That doesn't help kids learn. I taught a remedial math class at Weber State, and 50% of the kids who come to Weber State cannot qualify to take regular college math because they can't do it. So putting more money in does not equal kids learning, okay? Kids learning equals how you teach them and the curriculum and how they practice it. And if they're required to take it, saying you only have to take one math class to graduate from high school doesn't help. Anyway, I just wanted to say, please do not raise taxes. Learn to live within your budget. I have to live within my budget. I live on a fixed income now, and we can't keep taking taxes being raised.
Hello, I'm Beth Keswick, and I live in Eden. I would like to talk to you about a potential additional source for income. There is a lot of development going on in the Ogden Valley, as you may or may not be aware, and part of that is funded by what's called a Community Reinvestment Area, or CRA. And I'm going to read you the definition of a CRA so you can understand, what it is that I'm upset about. A community reinvestment area is a designated geographic area where local governments offer tax incentives to encourage investment in new construction, expansion, or rehabilitation of properties. These incentives, often in the form of tax abatements, are intended to spur economic development and revitalization in areas that might otherwise struggle to attract investment. There's many examples of CRAs across Weber County, and the Weber School District has contributed since 2020 over $14.5 million to CRAs. And I would like to understand, or I would like you to think about, what if that went down to zero? Do we really need to invest in more development? Is it really good for the school district to take tax dollars from people here and give it to developers? I struggle with that. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that flag because I don't think it's been mentioned here before. I'm not an expert in CRAs, but I clearly can see from the Frontier website where some of this money has gone. So, thank you.
Thank you. David Rice, Shanna Francis, Roger Smoot, Jessica Manning.
David Rice. I live in unincorporated Weber County in Uinta. And anyway, I'm grateful tonight. I'm grateful for all the comments. I think we're all here because we're just a little frustrated and we're tired. We're tired of the same kind of thing where costs keep going up, but my personal budget doesn't go up. If I run out of money and I go to my boss and say I need a 6% raise, they don't care. So we live within it, and I think that's the sentiment of all of us. But first of all, I do want to I thank you for what you do. I'm appreciative of public education. I would probably argue that every person in this room is grateful for public education. We're all recipients, and the society benefits as a whole from public education. There's no doubt. But I think it's just looking at budgets, looking at numbers. We can all go through, like just as all been said, formulas and all this stuff doesn't math out with what the dollar amount is on our taxes. It's already been said. You know, I look at mine the same thing. I've had a 200% increase in my property taxes over the last 6 years. And all of us have. And we could all argue, well, what's that for and where's it going? And you've listed a whole bunch of beneficial things, good things, but are they necessary things? Or are there things that could be cut? Maybe we need a review of efficiency at every level of this state. And I would argue it's not just you, it's not the school board as a whole. There's a lot of inefficiencies through every system that tax dollars fund all the way to the state. And I would argue that everybody in this room should probably be writing letters to your legislatures to also say, we're just kind of done with this. We can't keep being taxed and taxed and taxed to the point, as was already mentioned, there are people that have their homes paid for that eventually can't even pay the taxes on the home they live in. I live in a home that was built in 1954. The cost to build that home and the cost that I paid for that home years ago is, I mean, you can't even compare it. I should be paying probably the taxes of the value of that home. It's a 1954 home. And yes, I've painted, I've remodeled, I've done some things to that home. But that doesn't mean my home is now worth $850,000 for me. I haven't sold that home. I haven't gained, as was mentioned. Anyway, that's a rant. But I appreciate that. I appreciate education. We need education. But I would also, just like everybody here, say we do not want a tax increase at all. You can propose 21%. We want a 0%. 5% is not acceptable. 2% is not acceptable. I think this year 0% is acceptable. Thank you.
Shanna Francis, I'm from Eden, and I'm just representing myself. I was grateful that Ms. Keswick brought up the CRAs. That's my question also. I wanted to know if, I know you can't answer questions, but my question is, are you required by the state to pay in to these public infrastructure districts operated by CRAs? And if not, why are you paying into them? Because the state has made it easier and easier for municipalities and counties to organize these programs, and they're taking money from the Weber Fire District, all the different districts that we pay taxes into, and so that keeps multiplying. And I want to know, why are they taking money away from our kids to pay for developers' projects? Thank you.
Roger, correct? Roger, Jessica Manning, Dylan Manning, Sandy Hunter.
Thank you, Roger Smout, North Ogden. I was going to jump out of line, but it was almost as confusing to get out of line as it was to read through the numbers. So I just would have a couple of brief things, and I hope we can communicate. I appreciate all the work that you do. I recognize that there's a lot of responsibility here, and I appreciate that you're here to hear what we have to say. I recognize that this is just an open forum where we get to just share for a minute. We see property taxes, we see our property values increase. That puts more money into the school, right? So there's more money. We see new households moving into Weber County, gives you more money. We see bonds that are happening, gives you more money. I'm at the opinion that there will never be enough money. So let's see what we can do about changing that. Thank you.
Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jessica Manning, and I live in West Weber. I just had a few things to say, but I was worried I was going to run out of time, so I'm just going to get right to it, and then if I have time, I'm going to finish from the heart. But first, taxes are theft. Second, taxes began as a temporary solution to the World War, and just like every temporary government solution, they have added several new types of taxes with different titles, and they are not only permanent, but continue to grow and expand every year. When you talk about this magic number 20, we need to stay close to it so that the state will give us the maximum amount. Well, the we is we the people. We pay both ends of that. We are paying this that you are proposing, and we also pay the state taxes that they are giving you. Some here have mentioned the large salaries that Weber State School District gets, and sadly, that top 20 individuals that the man mentioned earlier, when you take all of those and you look at a single one, most of those numbers are what a full household makes, or even more so. So many people make less than what you guys make as a family, as a dual income. We have been in our home for 7 years, and our mortgage has gone up several $100s a month. It's not sustainable. When we agree to a mortgage, we have to budget. We had to make a plan. We put in hours and hours of labor to build our home so that we didn't have to hire a builder. And our mortgage is up several $100s from what we agreed upon because of property taxes. Property taxes are wrong. I want to throw up when I say this, but California is doing something right. They actually freeze the amount of property taxes on a mortgage when they sign it so that they never go up from the day they sign their or their mortgage. I hear people saying our kids need to have these beautiful things to be proud of. These schools, our kids are weaker and more influenced and have more mental health and less not education in the popular liberal way of saying it, but actual knowing how to do math, knowing how to do grammar, knowing how to do basic life skills. They are low and we're failing them. These big, beautiful skills or these big, beautiful schools are not giving them the quality that they need. They need basic education. Pride in their school is not necessary for what they need. Pride comes before the fall. Get back to the basics. Let kids be kids. Please quit taxing their families out so that we can afford our basic needs. And yeah, we don't need any tax increase at all. We need a reduction. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dylan Manning, and I'm just representing myself and every other taxpayer that I've talked to the last couple of weeks after hearing about this proposal. And sorry, I'm just going to read this here. I'm not a good public speaker, but Superintendent Board. So I'm not here just as a taxpayer, but as a parent who's had enough A 20% increase is ridiculous. We're already drowning in taxes, and with the explosive growth in housing and revenue, this county should be flush with funds. Inflation is no excuse when Utah has $1.36 billion in reserves for 2025 and over $9.2 billion for emergencies. We don't need more taxes. We need smarter spending and less waste. Our teachers are some of the best, but they're forced to follow policies that strip them away of their basic education, of our kids' basic education. Phonics, cursive are all gone now. I'm the one teaching my kids to write properly. Why they bring home straight A's for subpar work, we're failing our kids by passing them forward and tying the hands of our teachers who want to teach, discipline, and lead our children. So I also want to say, if Weber County is so desperate to look for money, sorry, I lost my place here. If they're so desperate to look for money, how about we look at what our commissioner's paying? Why are they getting paid 3 to 4 times than any other county commissioner in this state, along with this board? It's time to take burden off of us. Please just consider, don't let this go on deaf ears. This is your guys' job. And also, everybody I talked to, they couldn't come, and I just praise God that everybody's here in this room is here and letting their voices be heard. I pray that it's not on deaf ears. Can you please let our teachers teach, go back to basic teaching. Our kids are sicker, dumber than they ever have been before. And we've got the best teachers. We need you guys to step away. So.
Thank you. Sandy Hunter, Chase Stander, Justin Scott, and Mudrow. I can't read the first name, I'm sorry. Sandy Hunter. No Sandy?
No Sandy, I didn't see.
Sandy Hunter. Okay.
Okay, so I am Chase Stander. I live in Plain City, and I am representing myself, all of the neighbors and community members that I've spoken with about this over the last weeks. I have yet to talk with one person in the grocery store on the street that agrees with this and is for this increase, and I am against that. So I've spent multiple years as an analyst and making charts look good that weren't. And the way I did that was putting a lot of numbers on there and saying what I wanted to be told as a story and painting that. And that's what we saw here tonight. By representing percentages, we were able to avoid the actual dollar figures. And that's what we needed to see. Because as has been pointed out here tonight, taxes have increased, as well as the revenue that has come into the school district. So you have not done more with less, you've been given more. And as we've already heard, we're at a breaking point. We cannot handle any more of this. I also wanted to point out, salaries were brought up. You made a point that these fees and the tax increase wasn't going to go to salaries, but indirectly, that money came from somewhere else, right? So we took the money to pay for salaries, so now we need more money here to pay for that. So that's exactly what is going on. We're representing, we're wanting it to look at it this way, don't look over here. And it's really frustrating. Last year, my insurance costs went up 13.9%. My pay went up a little over 2%. So you know what happened? I took an 11% pay cut in my take-home pay to cover my insurance for my family because that's what had to be done. I didn't have a choice, and that's what we're seeing here. Nobody here is willing to take a cut. We just want to take more from us as families. I wouldn't have a problem with that, right? I've got 3 kids in this school district. But why I have a problem with that? Ever since COVID and Canvas, I have been the teacher at my house. My daughters go through junior high and high school. We come home, we sit down for a couple hours every day, and we go through their homework and we work on it. And I will send specific questions back to their teachers to get an answer for it. And those teachers cannot answer those questions. They cannot teach my kids how to do math. They respond to them, get on YouTube and watch some tutorials. And so that's what I do as a parent. I get on YouTube and I'm teaching my 8th grader, my 9th grader how to do math because the teachers aren't. So yes, we're giving them more, we're giving them the best, but they're not improving. Our test scores are not improving. So it's just not a representation that by spending more, we're getting more, right? My daughters are both involved in extracurricular activities. Cheer. I'm spending $10,000 this year.
Thank you.
To pay for that.
Justin Scott.
Yes, sir.
Is it Dave Mudrow? Are you Mr. Mudrow? Okay. Don Fulmer and Curtis McCollum.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. I know you guys have a tough job. I'm here to represent myself and whoever else agrees with me. My name is Justin Scott. I live in Far West. I'm a real estate broker. I have some serious problems with the numbers that you presented tonight. But I just want to say that I'm in an interesting situation. You know, this is the first time in my life where my kids have graduated out of public schools and my grandkids aren't in public school yet. So now I'm paying the taxes, you know, like a lot of people here for no kids in my family that are in school right now. But it is what it is. I also have another interesting situation where my property valuation went down, but my taxes went up. Now, I'm not going to call the assessor and tell him that, right? But what was interesting was that where it went up was the school taxes. And, you know, to present those numbers, you know, almost a 22% increase, and I know we heard numerous times saying that's not where it's going to land, but that's the oldest sales trick in the book. You know what I mean? Well, we're going to pitch this 22%. Oh, but then everybody thanks you when it hits like 18% or 19%, right? So keep that in mind when you're looking at those numbers. So I'm a firm believer, like so many of these other people here, that the money's been mismanaged, right? Or the schools they're too luxurious. I had the opportunity to go to school overseas in England. I went to public schools there. My dad was working for the Air Force, civil service. We lived on the economy. And the schools that we had there weren't anything near like we have here. Now, it would take an overhaul for the complete American school system, but their focus was more on the education. It was all about the teachers and teaching the students, not so much on the extracurricular activities, on the money, all the money that's spent there. And I received a phenomenal education there. When I moved over there, they put me back a year because they're so much further ahead. But when I came back, I was further ahead because of their system. So I think we need to look at where we're spending our money, invest it more in the teachers, like we've heard so many times before. And quickly on the real estate numbers, you know, I'm a real estate broker. When we look at the numbers, we're looking at the median number, right? You guys are looking at the average. There's a big difference, if you guys know numbers, between the median and the average. You guys are looking at it at your advantage, okay? The median price of $524, we're nowhere near that in Weber County. In fact, the average, I looked it up just on the fly when I saw that number. Third quarter last year was the highest we had in Weber County. It was $494. And yeah, 500 was the highest we had, and that was in 2022. 500 for the average home price, right? So the reason why you look at I'm running out of time, but why you look at that is you're taking out the outliers. It's a better representation. So don't ask for more money, manage it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and audience. I'm grateful that you're all here tonight to listen to the taxpayers, the citizens of the United States. Education starts in the home. If we have to pay too much taxes, we don't have a home to have our kids to even go to the school. So how's that going to help our kids if we're raising taxes when they won't be able to have a home? That's where the education starts, is in the home. The school's great. The teachers are great. Of course, the teachers want more pay. I don't blame them. They're doing hard jobs. I'd like more pay too. but our fiscal house is out of order in the country, and we can't be doing this for our future children. You guys are the leaders up here. You need to lead. You need to hold the taxes to zero. And I know you guys can do it. We have creative ways we can make money for the school districts. We see UTA put advertisements on the buses. We could do that. There's tons of ways to make money for the school and the children. And anyway, I appreciate everybody here and this great America we live in. We're American citizens. We can figure this out, where we're not taxing the people out of their homes, where the school board gets their money. It's because we're Americans and we can do this. And that's all I have to say.
Don Fulmer, Curtis McCollum, Jay Fowers, Sean Fowers.
My name's Don Fulmer. I live in North Ogden and have for the last 24 years. A little more than half of that I've been retired. I don't have any children in your school district. Okay, I have neighbors that do. But I am a little concerned because every year that old tax thing shows up and then you look down the list and most of them are holding the line. A little bit here, 15 bucks there, 20 bucks there, or even, but never the school district. In fact, before I came here, I said, well, I'll quickly go back through my records, and my actual Weber School District tax bill went down 2 times in the last 10 years. And those were all about 5 years or more ago. Now, when I figured out how much I actually paid, and I appreciate the presentation that was made, I'm not sure how most people in this audience could follow that, but I followed most of it. And I understand, thinking from a corporate standpoint, that you want to leverage the dollars you have to maximize the state dollars you can get. But remember, if you're making that as an investor, like I would with my personal money, then that's my choice. But the money's not yours. The money is tax dollars. So I want to give you a little different perspective. I just ran some quick numbers. In the last 10 years, my tax has increased for the school district by 91%. So annualized, that's 9.1% per year. Okay, at that same time, inflation was nowhere near that. But what I also realized as I looked at those numbers was the increase has been much more precipitous in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, my tax bill increased by 64%. So if I annualize that on a 5-year basis, that's almost 13% per year. Now, the inflation rate in Utah during those 5 years was 4.4%. So it's 3 times the inflation rate, which also means it's very unlikely that anybody is getting a raise, and being a retiree, I certainly didn't, of anything along that scale. So what you're doing is increasing the tax burden on your constituency. Now, I'm not here to tell you what we need in the schools, what kind of facilities we need, what kind of salaries you should be paid, whether the quality of the education is what it ought to be, because I'm not in a position to do that. But you people are. That's your job. And so I would really admonish you to think about how can we set a no-growth budget, a no-growth tax, and still make things work. And there's lots of people. Thank you.
Curtis McCullum, Jay Fowers, Sean Fowers, Van Taylor.
Curtis is gone. I'm Jay Fowers.
Okay.
And I'm from Far West. I'm
No
representing
Curtis in. Sorry. Okay.
representing myself and the other senior citizens. I'm 82 years old, and I've lived in Weber County my entire life. I worked 2 and 3 jobs all my life to pay off my house, but it's not paid off because I have to pay over $400 every month just for my taxes. So I thought when I got my house paid off, I'd be in heaven, but I'm not. I looked at the last 4 years for Weber School District taxes, and I know that this year's is under review, but it's 21.75%. 2024 was 1%. Somebody must have been asleep on that year. 2023 was 13.71%. 2022 was 18.2%. Those add up to 54.66% in the last 4 years. My Social Security increase, if I'm lucky, has been 14%. So I've lost 40% in that time. My fear is that at some point I won't be able to afford to live in my house that's paid for. I just want to say that big organizations such as the government, and I'll include Weber School District in that, has a lot of duplication and waste. And I would suggest, before you consider any increase, that you would ask every department to justify their budget and see where they could make cuts. And thank you.
Thank you. Sean Fowers, Van Taylor, Blaine Richard, Kerry Gibson. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sean Fowers. I live in Plain City. I'm just representing myself. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate education. We got to have it, good education. I used to work for Weber School District, so I know firsthand that the district wastes a lot of money, a lot. And I just would ask that you guys, like a lot of people said, take a look at your budgets and use the monies that you have wisely, and I think you'd be okay. I bet you could walk around this building, you got $1,000 or more just in treats and drinks. So just look at your monies and use them wisely. Thank you.
Thanks. Van Taylor.
I'm Van Taylor, and I'm from Taylor, just representing myself. I was a commercial contractor for 45 years. And through that history and all the buildings that I've worked on, many of them were schools. And it's been in Utah, California, all over the western United States. The biggest thing that I noticed during that time is years ago, schools were built, they were practical, they were purposeful, they were built for the purpose of education. Through the years, they've progressively gotten worse and worse to where now they're nothing more than monuments to the architects that design them. And I had a brother that was on a school board, and he was on there for one term, and that's all he could handle, because the school board, all they cared about was who could build the biggest and best high school in competition with all the other school districts in the state. So I think there is a problem with that, and it's been said a lot here. And so I don't think there ought to be any more tax increases for anything until schools start being built in a purposeful way, in a meaningful way. So that's all. Thank you.
Blaine Richards. Okay. Kerry Gibson. And then we'll have TJ Eskelson, Mike Howard, and Wade Hasler. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak for myself and our family. My wife Katrina is here with us today, and I have 6 children that I'm proud to say attended Weber School District schools. West Weber Elementary, Walquist Junior High School, and Fremont High School. And I love all of them. I love all of those schools and all of those teachers. And frankly, I know and respect and love all of you. And I'm really grateful for the work that you do. I also want to mention that my biggest fear with these children who are now having children of their own have truly lost the opportunity lately the American dream as we knew it. They can't get into a home, and when they can't afford the basic needs to maintain and operate that household, which includes taxes. Property taxes are the worst. I hate them. There's got to be other ways, and I know that that seems like a state legislative issue in a lot of ways, okay? But I also respect and honor the work that the legislature has done over the last few years. I have seen them make great strides in increasing the WPU by over 25% in a 4-year period. They're giving tools in a lot of different ways, and I think at some point, let me just express to you an experience that I had, because I'm guessing that you all don't see rooms like this full very often. And in my experience as a former elected official, I remember seeing a few of these. And I remember the weeks leading up to it, where all of my staff was telling me, we have to have this, and we have to have this, and we have to have this. And then pretty soon I realized that I had a perspective that wasn't exactly the same as the perspective that I was seeing from the people who were actually paying the bill. So I respect you deeply, but I can also say this. The way that you could earn my respect even more is to show me that you can hear these people and hear what is truly going on in their lives and how it's affecting them. I think we have seen a monumental shift politically in the nation recently. Monumental, because here's the problem. We had a whole bunch of people that were telling us something that wasn't really what we were experiencing on the ground, right? And so, while our government was saying one thing at the national level, we weren't experiencing that back home. We were experiencing just the opposite, and it flipped an entire system and flipped things crazily on its head. And I would just encourage you to fight this urge. Like I had an experience like this where I actually proposed this, a tax increase, and found out that before we made the vote, I actually changed my position. I'm hoping that you'll consider doing the same thing.
TJ Eskelson. Okay. Mike Howard and Wade Hasler.
Mike Howard. I'm from South Ogden. I've lived my entire life in South Ogden. I'm here to speak for my family, my parents that live in South Ogden, and I should have probably wrote things down. As I've been sitting here with each person that's talked, I've thought, okay, I want to say something different. And I am seriously just here to show my support to you. You have a very difficult decision, and I have nothing but respect for all of you. So I'm a retired police officer. I live on a retired income. And during my time as a police officer, I had the opportunity to work at the school. I was a teacher at Roy High for 5 years, and I loved it. I loved my job as a police officer. I loved my job as a teacher. And what you guys do doesn't get the thanks that you deserve, that our teachers deserve. And we have two kids that are in high school right now. We have two kids that have graduated. And I look at that and I'm so proud of the opportunities that society provides to our kids, the opportunities that they have in the schools that we did not have. My kids are so much better off, and I've heard the exact opposite, but my kids are so much better off than I am. They are physically stronger than I am, than I ever was. They're smarter than I ever was, and it's not because of me. Maybe a little bit because of my wife, but we owe it to you guys, and I just want to show my support. The amounts that we're going to face as citizens at $3.90 a month, I'm okay with, and I support the increase. So thank you and appreciate your time, and I'm sorry for the negative that comes out, and we all see it and we all feel it because things change, prices get higher, but we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Wade Hassler, Bill Olson, Jenny Taylor, and Daniel Battle.
Bill Olson.
Wade Hasler. Okay, we'll cross him off the list. Go ahead, Bill.
Bill Olson from, Bill Olson from North Ogden. First of all, thank you guys for what you do. I know you're elected officials, so you work for us, but it doesn't make your job any easier. And I appreciate you being here and allowing us to express our feelings to you, because I think about you a lot every time I write that check for my property taxes. But I'm a retired CEO, and in my business, I had a duty to my shareholders. As elected officials, you have a fiduciary duty to us, your shareholders. Recently, the district showcased a new high school that was funded by a bond of $298 million approved by the taxpayers in 2021. Of that $279 million bond, $154 million was appropriated for Westfield High School. The final cost of that high school was $171 million, about 16 plus million over budget. Now, $171 million for a school comes out to about, based on the square footage of Westfield High School, not counting the square footage of the indoor athletic field, is about $500 a square foot. Now, if you look at the data throughout the country, the most expensive city in the country is New York City. The cost of 2024 figures of building a high school in New York City was $319 a square foot. So I don't really care much about the money you get. I care about what you do with it and how you're spending it. And I'd like to suggest that you show us some of the money. According to Utah State Auditor Tina Cannon, Utah school districts hold over $4.5 billion in investment accounts. With cash on hand, total short-term assets approach $9 billion. These surpluses were largely fueled by massive COVID-19 funds funded by the federal government. Yet there's been no meaningful increase in academic performance. Weber School District wants to permanently raise taxes while sitting on these record reserves. Now, in 2023 numbers, I don't think I could get 2024 that haven't been published yet. But Weber School District's revenue was approximately $320 million. That's $9,862 per student. I can't expire.
You're done. Thank you.
I only have a 2-minute script. Well, anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny Taylor, and then Daniel Battle. Adele? Okay.
Hi, my name is Jenny Taylor. I am a mother of 7 children who are either in or have gone through the Weber School District. I'm a product of the Weber School District. I'm a 3rd-generation widow. I know my mother, grandfather, and I are all grateful for public schools that do a lot more than just teach. I know your teachers wish they could just teach, and if they didn't have to do anything else, they could just teach, and the budget could be much lower than it is. But the truth of the matter is, as fiscally, politically, and socially conservative as I am, I support funding adequate public education for our children. I mentioned I have these children. My oldest daughter will be a junior in college. My baby is starting 2nd grade. For the past 15 years, I've worked with the community council, the PTA, and as a classroom volunteer. I can't tell you how many times we've had to fundraise for things like Chromebooks and smart boards, like playgrounds and projector light bulbs. There was even a year when we needed to bring in our own copy paper in order to run school-related things in the workroom because we have not adequately funded schools. It's not always politically popular to be proactive, but if we don't address this today, you will have a larger crowd and an angrier audience in the future. Our children are the future. They are what we need to invest in. So I'd like to thank you, those of you that serve on the board, not only for hearing the people in the room tonight, but also for hearing and representing those who couldn't be here tonight because they're at soccer practice or feeding dinner to the very children who are currently going through your schools, who are currently attending some brand new buildings and some that are completely dilapidated and aging. You know the issues, you know the emotion, you've heard the voices. We thank you for seeing both sides and all sides of the issue. But I call upon you as elected representatives to remember what you know, what you've seen. You've been in our schools, you've talked to our teachers, you've seen our kids more recently than some in this room, and though none of us like taxes, and I also live on a fixed income, we have to invest in our future. We are not raising the children that went in functional buildings. We are not raising children in one-room schoolhouses. We are not raising children who come from stable homes always. As I have, in the last couple of years, entered the classroom not only as a teacher, but now as a doctoral student, I've come to study even more deeply the inequities that we have in our public education. They're tied to socioeconomics, they're tied to neighborhoods, they're tied to parents' employment. We can't have it be that our children are not funded and given the chance in their school classroom setting to live that very American dream that somebody earlier tonight said was dead. I completely disagree. The American dream is alive because of our public schools, and we as a public have an obligation to fund them. Whatever it takes us in order to fund them, we have to get those funds where they need to be. I call upon not only the board, but also the staff to make sure every dollar of those funds are very expeditiously spent. But let's not spend them, let's invest them, and we invest them in our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, Carrie Pipkin, Carl Giorgio.
It's Daniel Bedall, Washington Terrace. A lot has already been stated today, and I think what we've seen is that the overwhelming majority of the citizens want zero tax increase. You are representatives of the people, and now's your time to show whether you represent the people or somebody else. If you raise these taxes, even though almost everyone has demanded that you do not, then you represent somebody else. I know there's lots of ways to cut spending and things like that. And there's one thing that I think hasn't been touched on yet today, and that is inflation. Since 21, from the Consumer Price Index, we've had a 22% increase in inflation. That means every family has 78 cents for every dollar of expense from just 5 years ago. And you're asking them to now come up with several $100s more on top of more taxes across the board. You want to do what's right for the children, but the stress that you put on families and those children is going to be far more than any benefit you're going to get in the classroom with raising our taxes.
Thank you. Kerry Pipkin.
Yeah, I'm Kerry Pipkin, live in North Ogden, and I'm guessing I'm representing 80 to 90% of Weber County. I don't know. But there is something wrong here. There's something wrong in Weber County, as we've heard from 90% of the people who've spoken tonight, that is fed up with being shaken like a piggy bank every year and saying it's only another hamburger, it's a Big Mac, it's it's getting to be where it's an insurance payment and everything constantly. And we're kind of all fed up with it, I think. Understanding that you get increases every year through inflated home values and levy increases, and we continue to reach deeper in our pockets to pay taxes on unrealized gains. While you obviously have more money than you know what to do with, through the example of Westfield High, we know the fluff talk and canned answers and talking points to our questions, and you'll still press on regardless of what we say. Please tell us how we stop this insanity instead of justifying it or saying the kids will suffer. Thank you.
Go ahead.
It's Carol Giorgio, not Carl. So I got my tax bill, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I moved here a year and a half ago from Phoenix, Arizona, to be with my family. And I have paid, this is a very heavily taxed state in comparison. We can't keep going back to the well and expecting to draw from that same place. It just simply isn't there for some of us. People can't, as you've heard, people can't afford to rent, and they can't afford to buy a house. We're coming off the highest inflation that we have seen since the 80s. Some of us lived them, and we know what they were like. The valuation of my home went up $15,000. Or if I were to try and sell it and put it up on the market today, it's actually down $30,000. I would not get back what I paid for that house a year and a half ago. The nation is reducing its taxes to people. And as I said before, we can't keep going back to the same well. It's time to find a different revenue to support our schools. I wholly support schools and education. It is the lifeblood of America. And one thing that, and I honestly do not know how well it worked, I just know it benefited the taxpayer a great deal. One thing Arizona did was that you could donate to a school of your choice. And they took that directly off your income tax. So for instance, my tax bill now in Utah is $5,100. If I were to make a donation to the school, I would only pay $3,000. In Arizona, when I made a contribution of $2,200, I got back a refund of $400. So it is a very stark difference. So there must be something else that can be done rather than the way it has been being done for years here. As you've heard, many states have started to tax people out of their homes. It is a very solid fact that it is happening in this nation, and is very sad to hear that it is happening. So therefore, one other thing, and I know people are going to just love this one, but I think it's time to employ your own Doge audits and see what can be done to reduce. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, we have some folks waiting online.
Yeah. President Winnison, I've got that list, and I can welcome
You want to
in.
run it then?
I can welcome them in.
Okay.
Yep. So we have Ryan Aston. It's your turn for online comments. So we're going to allow you to unmute yourself and turn on your video. And you have 3 minutes once you're ready. And Mike Hillstrom, you'll be next. Okay, Ryan, if you are not able to unmute, we'll check in and come back. Mike, will allow you to unmute and start your video. And Janet, you'll be next. Okay. Janet, we'll ask you to go ahead and unmute yourself and your video, and the person labeled iPhone, you will be next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Janet Wampler. I live in Eden. I'm representing my family. I'm a parent of students at Weber School District schools. So like other parents of students, I received an email letting me know about the Truth in Taxation meeting coming up. This email specifically stated that we needed to raise taxes to ensure current levels of service and support to the students. We weren't raising, we were keeping a current level. It mentioned that the reason that this was needed to happen was because of inflation and 2 new state laws for safety mandates. Later down in the email, it talked about how you all say that you are committed to transparent communication, fiscal responsibility, ensuring every dollar supports student and education, and continuing to look for constant cost-saving measures. So the first thing I would point out is that the items that it was written that you guys are committed to in terms of transparent communication, fiscal responsibility, and ensuring that every dollar supports students and education, it seemed that that did not quite meet the standard you were putting out. When we look at the budgets of the Weber School District, we can find items that have nothing to do with students or their education. Specifically, I would like to help you in your last item where you continue to look for cost-saving measures by offering you one. I believe that Weber School District should stop subsidizing developers. Every year for the last 5 years, you have donated millions of dollars of our tax dollars that were promised to go to the school system to development in the form of CRAs. In the past 5 years, over $14.5 million of school tax dollars from the public was spent on development. In Ogden Valley alone, one item, one CRA that you have given money to just last year alone was almost $1 million. It was about $800,000, and it was given to the Powder Mountain Summit Community Development Project. This is known to be owned by a billionaire, one of the richest people in America, and we gave them $800,000 of school tax dollars. The billionaires are being subsidized to build private utopias on our tax dollars, and this cannot continue. So please, when you say you're looking to find cost-saving measures, look no further than your CRA line of your annual budget. Please stop using our school tax dollars to fund development projects. Thank you.
All right, iPhone, that's how it's listed here. You will be allowed and asked to unmute. And Patricia, you will be next. Okay, we'll move past iPhone. Janet, you are being asked to unmute. Oh, sorry, Janet. Patricia, you are being asked to unmute and start your video. And that's our last commenter. President Widdowson, they have not chosen to unmute. So
Okay.
that's our last comment.
Wonderful, thank you, Ron. Well, that finishes up our a public hearing tonight. So what we'll need to do is close that public hearing. So board, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Wiley, Kelly, okay, as a second. Any discussion at this point? We'll have some more discussion coming up later. If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. And
We can't.
An-
If they
any
haven't signed up
opposed?
by 7, we can't alter the procedure, yeah.
any opposed on that? Okay, thanks. Okay, we're going to turn some time over to Superintendent Butters. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I just share a few comments, Board, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's come tonight. I can assure you we've listened. Everything that has been said tonight has been processed, and we just appreciate the effort you made to come out tonight. And I know it's not easy to stand up in front of a group and say what you think, and we appreciate that. Please hear that from the sincere place in me, in my heart. My role in Weber School District is a little different. I'm a taxpayer as well, but my role is a little different. I represent all of the children, the 33,000 children, and that number fluctuates from moment to moment and year to year. My job, K through 12, is to represent the children of Weber School District in the best possible way that I can. And I can tell you that I lay awake most nights carrying the burden of that responsibility. It is not an easy responsibility. I can guarantee you that this great board right here is the same. We talk all the time, and we're always trying to figure out ways that we can do what we do better and more efficiently. But I just want to speak to a couple of points that have been on my mind as we've been contemplating this ask of the taxpayer, okay? So bear with me, okay? I think it's been proven through the data, whether you agreed with the data or not, or understood the data that was presented tonight or not. I think it's been proven over time that the Weber Board of Education has worked really hard over many years to keep property tax rates low. There's no denying that ours are some of the lowest in the state. We have worked very hard, I can assure you, to make very prudent decisions. We've stretched dollars, and sometimes we have not been able to fund certain programs or textbooks or resources or things, air conditioning systems, things that we need, buses that are breaking down. We have tried very hard to make sure that we've maintained and kept those things going as long as we possibly can. But we've reached a critical point. There are urgent needs before us, needs that directly affect the safety of our schools and the quality of instruction that we provide. If we fail to meet the minimum local effort required by the state, and I need to say that again, the minimum local effort required by the state for local boards, if we fail to do that, we forfeit significant funding, and we forfeit that funding over time. That's how the formula works. None of us need to like or agree upon whether we like that or not. That's how it works for public schools. So leaving that money, from my perspective as a superintendent, on the table, especially because that money will be used to support children, would be educational neglect. And I don't say that lightly. These are not funds for extravagance. These are funds that our children deserve. Okay? Let me just make a couple of more points if I could, and then I'll turn it back to this great board. At the same time that we are facing the way that funding is working for our schools and the formulas, we face non-negotiable state mandates. I don't know that people understand this. I do. Every week during the legislative session, I'm down at the Hill, and I'm looking and I'm watching bills and I'm tracking bills. I don't know if you're aware of this, but last legislative session, 582 bills were passed. Of those 582, 154 of them, that's over 25% of them, directly impact public education in some way. Since 2022, an average of 1,300 bills plus have been requested, and a yearly average of 565 bills have been passed. Districts need a pause. What's not been spoken to tonight is those bills, many of them come with mandates that are unfunded or partially funded. And the expectation is that the local boards figure out how to address the unfunded mandates. And that happens to a degree that I don't think the public understands. Okay? We need a pause on that, and we have been advocating for that as state superintendents and as state school board members. We need a pause because we can't sometimes get our breath. We can't sometimes adjust to what's coming at us every legislative session, and those mandates oftentimes impact the way we fund our schools and have to fund our schools. Several bills came with legislative mandates that are around this safety measure, and I need to let you know that I fully support the safety measures that are in these two bills, HB 84 and HB 40, because I lay awake at night and worry about the safety of our children. And I think that the mandates are very well thought out, and we as a school board and as a school district are 100% on board. But we can't fund those mandates with what we receive revenue-wise. And we're going to agree to disagree on that, but we can't. We also need you to know that money, and there's only a big pot of money at the state. There's a lot of complexities to it that even I don't understand. But when money is going to school vouchers and going out to school vouchers and not into public schools, that's detrimental to us as a public entity. We know that funding's going out for vouchers. And when you eliminate school fees for our curricular classes to run science classes and labs and all the different resources that we need for those classes, and we have to come up with the funding to make sure that those resources are there and that quality of education is provided. So those are just a few of the things that we have to face as a school district when these just enormous amounts of bills roll through our districts every year. And we're not the only district that's facing those. We know a tax rate increase is difficult. We know every household, every business, and every member of this community, every person in this room is impacted. And as board members, I want to say this, they feel the weight, you feel the weight, board members, of this decision. You're not only public servants, but you're parents, you're grandparents, and you're also taxpayers yourselves. So this decision impacts everybody in this room. I believe that doing nothing tonight, not looking at least a modest tax rate increase, would be short-sighted. It would compromise student safety, and it would jeopardize the education of the next generation of our kids. And I believe that strongly from my standpoint, from my perspective. As a school district, we believe it's in a moral imperative. We believe that it's our job. It's our holy job. And I know that sounds a little corny, but I feel this in my heart, to make sure that every one of our students has the supports that they need to be successful. And that differs child to child, and school to school, and community to community. Okay, board, I just want to thank you for your continued support as we work together to do what's right for every child in our county. Your service and your consideration of the recommended tax increase this evening is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Superintendent. Mr. Mitchell, will you just do us a brief review of what you presented to us before?
Yep. Yeah, so board, the final recommendation that was presented to you is to consider a net increase in the property taxes of 4 tax increments above the certified tax rates to 18.2 tax increments, which works to be a board levy of 0.000844 and a voted levy of 0.0009, leaving the others as from the assessor's office. This results in a 5.64% tax increase compared to the 2024 rate, and an additional $9,722,950 for the district. For the average household, this is a $46.83 yearly change, $3.90 per month, compared to the tax year 2024.
Okay, thank you. So board, we've had an opportunity here tonight to listen to our citizens. We've received input from patrons throughout the county over the past few weeks, the past month since we sent a notice out. Been on phone calls, conversations. We've heard from both sides of the aisle, those who greatly support a tax adjustment, those that don't support it. I feel like we've done a pretty good analysis. It's been hard. None of us like to pay any additional taxes. So what I'd like to do now is open up some discussion from our board members for a little while, and then we will go into asking for a motion and a vote. So, Doug, do you?
Go ahead.
Janice, go ahead. There you go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I want you to know I am totally conflicted because I so appreciate everyone who has come forward tonight, who have expressed themselves, who have shared the challenges that they will face with any tax increase. And I so appreciate that and so admire that. I thank you all for being here, for the time. You're a bunch of smart, involved people. All we had to do was listen to what you had to say. And I so appreciate that, and appreciate you sharing your time and your energy with us. In my brain and talking to legislators, talking to those involved in the political scene, their advice to me was we as a community could suffer and put up with and survive a 5% increase from our previous tax percentage. I don't know that I can vote above that, because I am taking your comments and I am taking their comments into consideration. One text I received, I thought it was very interesting. It said, "We must raise $14 million in taxes so we don't leave state money on the table." Well, that sounded pretty ironic and confusing, like not very intelligent. Again, I'm terribly conflicted. I loved what Jenny had to say about public education because I'm a former teacher. I love teaching. I love education. I love my board members. My superintendent is incredible. Brock has done a magnificent job. I am so grateful. But I am very much challenged by what people will face as they get bumped out of their houses. My area is the valley. You know, the taxes and the development and the money that the people in the valley are being charged. And the fact that for years they've been in their homes and they'll be removed from their homes, I can't stomach it. So that is where I stand. I can tolerate a 5% increase because that has been, as I say, the analysts say we can handle that as individuals, but I won't be able to go beyond that. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. Bruce, any comments? Doug, sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
I also appreciate the people that have been in this room tonight. And I think I have listened and taken some really solid notes on what has been asked of the people in the room. There were, as I could pretty much gauge about 150 people here. And it sounded like there was a high majority saying one thing. The downside of that, to me, is that what I heard is 26%, and this is from outside sources, of the kids of the population in Weber County are under the age of 18. They have no vote. It is my responsibility to represent them as well. They have no vote. So I believe our kids deserve the best education they can have. They deserve positive environments to learn in. They deserve qualified educators and amazing educators, which many of them have, and we know that. We hire the best and we retain the best. They also deserve to have opportunities for ongoing scholarships, and if they are not in competitive situations, those scholarships don't come to them. So to me, it is part of my responsibility to also listen to their needs. They're not here tonight, but they have a right to be heard as well. I appreciate that you came tonight, but I hope you will come more often. I think that we need to hear from you often, not just on Truth and Taxation Night. We need to hear consistently from you. And I anticipate that this will be an ongoing conversation for years to come. I hope it will be. I want you to know I am one of you. I am retired. I am on a fixed income. And I am a 45 plus year homeowner, and I pay my taxes as well. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate the legislature giving us some time to implement these programs, but we have to be able to address it more clearly for the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jan. Kelly?
Yeah, I also want to thank everybody who came tonight, and I echo Jan's sentiments that I would love to see more people here more often. I came to decide to be on the school board. This is I'm in my third year, because I was an over-involved parent at my kids' schools. I have 4 children. 3 have now graduated. My third child just graduated this year, and I still have 1 child left in high school. So as that over-involved PTA parent, that's where I came to know what was happening in our schools. I was in the classrooms, I was volunteering in my kids' classes, and I saw what hard work our teachers were doing. So I would invite you to not only come to our school board meetings more often, but volunteer in your kids' classes. If you don't have kids in the district, we need grandparent volunteers. We would love to see you in our buildings. Also, I'm with Jan. I recognize the tax burden on families. Not only do I personally pay taxes into this district, my husband's a small business owner, so we have personal taxes and we have business taxes. And as those of you who are small business owners know, that those businesses are taxed at 100% of our market value. So I understand that obligation. I just wanted to address a couple of things. Well, first of all, one thing that I want to address is this notion of the board rubber stamping things. I just want to let you know that I have spent a lot of time in the last 2 months researching and understanding Brock's entire presentation, because before June, I was like you, it made no sense to me, and I've spent a lot of time, I've done a lot of research. I have spoken with a lot of people. If you reach out to me, I will have a conversation with you, whether it's on email or phone. And so I find that we are in a precarious situation where we're leaving millions of dollars on the table. It's interesting, the majority of school districts have gone to Truth and Taxation, and I've been really interested to see the reasoning behind some of those districts' reasonings to raise their property taxes. There's a district in the Salt Lake Valley whose combined tax rate is 3 times higher than ours, and they went to Truth and Taxation last night and they voted to raise taxes. I personally wouldn't agree with that. We have the lowest combined tax rate in the Wasatch Front. the notion that we have $114 million in emergency funds isn't true. That's not accurate. We have more like $8 million in emergency funds. Another school district along the Wasatch Front, from a board member's mouth, has $330 million in emergency funds, and they voted for a tax increase. I would not support that if we were in that position, or even if we were in a position of $114 million of emergency funds. I'm super involved in knowing about our about the school safety mandates. And again, I agree with Superintendent Butters. Those are needed things in our schools, but they are like, we have the opportunity to apply for grants, but the majority of those mandates from the state are on our district. It's our burden to pay for those, and they're in the millions of dollars. Another thing that I just wanted to address, one person spoke about extras in the school, like our psychologists and our behavioral therapists and whatever, those types of things. My daughter, who graduated in 2022, when she was in the 9th grade at Orion Junior High, she was struggling emotionally. And she comes from a 2-parent household. My husband and I are married. We have a stable income. We have a stable family. And she struggled. And her school counselor changed her life with the resources that her school counselor was able to give her. And so I think about kind of what Jenny spoke to. When you have families that don't have the 2-parent family, that may have economic challenges, if they don't have resources at their schools, and it's too much on the teachers to be able to manage all of that for one person. So I am extremely grateful for all of our mental health therapists and our school counselors and our other staff members who support our students. So I just want to say, and originally as I studied this, I was kind of on board with, let's go to the 20 tax increments and like just peel that Band-Aid off and get it over with. But as I've spoken to members of the community, I'm kind of with Janice, where I feel like that's probably too much for our taxpayers to take on right now. And I also think that, there is a problem with the way property taxes are structured. There's a problem that we're taxed on the market value of our home, and that change can only be made at the state level. So I would urge you, if you have a problem with the way our property taxes are structured, to reach out to your legislator and ask them to think about restructuring property taxes.
Go ahead, Wiley. Thanks, Kelly.
I just have just a few comments. I am very new. I'm the newest board member. I've been on the board now for 8 months. And so I'm just learning the processes and all this. This is my first experience with this. And I want to express my gratitude also for your comments, your thoughts. You have made me think deeper about what is going on. I just want to comment. Is that better? Sorry. Okay. I want to just share a couple of observations that I've had in the 8 months I've been on this board. The first observation addresses the many comments that we've had tonight about our district and its fiscal responsibility. As I've said in these meetings and other meetings, I have seen our district be fiscally responsible. Also, I believe that this situation that we're in is the difference between needs and wants. There are no wants here. This is about needs. And let me tell you why I think that. We are not asking you for more money to spend this upcoming year. We are asking for less. Last year we had a $58,810,000, and we are, with this proposed, we are going to have to operate on $58,040,000. So it's right at the same. We are not spending exuberantly. The next thing that I just like to share, and my thoughts on this are, this is painful for everybody, but if we don't do something about it now, it's going to explode in the future if we don't do something about raising the basic tax levy now. The next years are going to be worse. And then the last thing, I just want to share a comment that I got from one of the citizens in the area that I live. And this is an older gentleman, and I asked him what he thought of it. He said, two things, Wiley. Is the district spending our money in a wise manner? And then two, he said this, he said, there's no more important resource in the world than the children that we have. And he said, if this tax increase is necessary, then I'm good with it. So again, I'm grateful for your input, grateful for the light that you shed on this. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Ron. Bruce, go ahead.
You know, I think one of the things, is that working okay? One of the things that makes Weber County great is what we've seen here tonight. The number of people that are willing to get involved, to be part of what, to have their voices heard. I think that's what makes this county great and a great place to live. That's where I've raised my family. That's where I have grown up. I still have grandchildren that are attending here, and I still have children that are in this area that will all be affected by what takes place tonight. I think as I've listened to Brock's presentation, and I think if each one of you will have an opportunity to take a look at that closer, I think it'll become more clear because it takes some time to go through that. School finance is probably the most complicated and difficult finance system to find. And it's not anything that the district has done, but this is what comes from the state. I believe also, as we've heard, and I won't take a lot of time, we've been here a long time tonight, and it's worthwhile to be here. I won't take a lot of time, but I think our inability to act would be a great crime, in my opinion. I pay taxes, I'm with you, I'm with each one of you. It doesn't lessen the heartache that I have for each one, and the burden that it's going to recreate on everyone, and including myself. But I think if we don't act, it will be a difficult time, and I think we're going to be pushing a snowball downhill that will be a very difficult snowball to stop. We live in a difficult world. Things have changed. We've heard a lot tonight about when we grew up, and when I grew up in a school that was pretty minimal. Times have changed. I think as you look through your life, what has changed in your life in the last 25 or 30 years? And what has changed in the cost of living in the last 25 or 30 years? So I think, I'm a grandpa. I know these are going to affect things. I don't believe, I wish that we hadn't had to publish the maximum rate, because I think that alarmed a lot of people. I know any tax increase is difficult, but to look at a 21 or a 22% tax increase was never something that we considered, or I personally considered, that would be even feasible. But I do believe that we need to act, and so I would once again want to thank you for being here. Thank you for making this county great, because this is some of the things, and this process is part of what makes Weber County great. And I want you to know that what you've said tonight has been heard, and what we've heard in other places has also been heard. Those who have not a vote, as has been indicated, and those who are not here tonight, texts that I've received and other opportunities to hear from constituents. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Bruce. Doug? Go ahead.
Just want to say thanks to everybody that's made comments tonight. Isn't it great we live in America, where we can dissent and have differences of opinion? There are places around the world where if you did that, you'd be hauled off to jail by now. So I'm grateful to be in America. What a great country we live in. We can say what we feel and not worry about reprisals. May I say, I was and is a taxpayer long before I came onto the board, and after I'm done with my service on the board, I will continue to be a taxpayer. And taxpayers are pretty unpopular. We've heard tonight that we're insane, irresponsible, and other kinds of things, and that's isn't it wonderful that people can express their opinions regardless of whether you agree with them or not. But being on the Capital Improvements Board, and one of my worst nightmares is if we ever have a school shooting. That would lay awake at night sometimes worrying about that, and the mandates and the things we have to do to protect our schools. That's the most important to me. And just a comment about the rainy day fund, being the bean counter on the board, this CPA, the numbers I've been involved with, getting the bonds ready and dealing with the bonding companies. The bonding agencies look significantly at the equity balances, the fund balances you have, and the higher that is, the lower your interest rate. So we want to have it be reasonable, but have that at the point so that our interest rate on the bonds that we have to pay back through the capital levy, we can get a lower rate, and it actually saves money doing it that way. So we're trying to do everything we can possibly can from an accounting standpoint to do the best we can. My wife is a retired school teacher, and I remember many times she's on her way out the door to go to school, she'd have a new coat or borrow have a coats from the neighbors or whatever, and she's, what's going on now? So, well, we so-and-so kids, she taught at a Title I school where the kids were a lot of times struggling, and she said, oh, the so-and-so came to school with just a little windbreaker and didn't have enough, and I'm just going to make sure they get to school okay. Or one morning, she had a couple of little kids come walking in school, and you could tell they hadn't eaten anything that night or slept, and they just walked to school, and they said, it was a single mom that said, my mom didn't come home last night. And we found out that during that night, the law enforcement had come and taken her off to jail because she was a drug dealer. And so Kathleen immediately took the kids down to the lunchroom and gave them something to eat and called the grandparents to come and deal with them. And many times Kathleen would bring things for the kids and backpacks, the ones that couldn't afford it, and help with them because the schools are trying to budget and be frugal with the money, and she spent, and that was hard for me because we were on a tight budget, but in addition to paying property taxes, school taxes, and everything else, we were helping to fund these kids because she loved them and I loved them too, and it was like that was the right thing to do. So it's all about kids. So even though I hate property taxes as well, and I had somebody say to me the other day that when he got his tax notice, he's speaking to us collectively as the board, he said, what are you smoking? And that was, I got bristly a little bit. That was offensive to think I was on drugs or smoking marijuana or something like that. And I thought, but yet it's their freedom to say that. So again, thank you for your comments tonight, whether we disagree with them all or not. And we have, isn't it wonderful we're an American, we have those privileges. And so I think we need to vote yes. I need to vote yes.
Thanks, Don. I've been on the board now going on 10 years, and I had no idea when I came on the board the complexities of school financing. And so as we've listened tonight about from folks, if you have questions or something that you don't understand, call Brock. I just threw you under the bus. Call Brock, because as I've listened to people tonight, I can tell that there is some misunderstandings. And it's a hard thing to learn. So I know Brock and Superintendent Mr. Mitchell and Superintendent have met with dozens and dozens of folks over the past few weeks to help them understand better all the different pots and all the different flows of the money and what we can spend some for here, but we can't spend for there and things. So I'd encourage you to do that. You'll have a much better understanding of it after you speak with Mr. Mitchell.
One more comment, if I may. It was said that there's roughly 150 people here tonight, and there's roughly, just rough and dirty numbers, probably 40, 50, or 60,000 people in our Weber School District boundaries. So with the representation tonight, you do the math, it's about a third of 1% of the people. So, and I represent all of the people, not just the few here tonight. Just to be fair, I represent everyone in the precinct that I represent, and glad to do that. We're going to do our best.
Okay, thanks. Any other input from anyone on the board? So let's move on, board. I would now ask for a motion to go forward and approve the proposed adjustment to the 2025 tax rate. Can I have a motion on that?
Would you define what that means?
As defined by Mr. Mitchell.
As defined by Mr. Mitchell. That tax
He
rate
gave
is
us that again.
18.2.
Yeah, so it ends up being the board levy at 0.000844, the voted levy at 0.009, bringing our tax increments to 18.2 in those two areas. Total percentage being 5.64%, and for the 2025 tax year.
Thank you.
Not 18%, 5.64. Okay, so asking for a motion. Kelly on the first, second. Jan. Any further discussion from anyone? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
Janice, okay, wonderful. Well, okay. It looks like the motion to approve has passed and will go into effect. And board, one more motion. We are done, so I would look for a motion to dismiss this meeting. Motion, and Bruce, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I'm going to wait for the room to clear a little bit.
What?
I'm going to wait for the room to clear a little bit.
Yeah,